It was Dean, I told Myra as I put my phone back in my pocket. No worries, she thinks I'm still at the mall. What if she came to check on you there? She's at uni. It's hard to understand what she was saying because the signal was choppy, but she should have a class right now, and another one after that. If you say so, said Myra. Dean really hassled herself to go to school even if there's the option to just attend classes online. She just wants to hang out with our classmates and be normal. I heaved a drawn-out sigh. I understand her. Wanting to be normal is normal. Okay, I just couldn't resist myself with that one. I might need to use rule number 9 and make a temporary rule to stop myself making passive-aggressive comments. Myra opened her mouth but didn't say anything, unsure of how to respond. I changed the topic before things got awkward again and said, "What will you teach me about fighting as an Adumbri?" No more emotionally poking her, get it, errand? Now was the time to learn. All right then, she said, clapping her hands together. Just throwing out a disclaimer before we begin, what I know is how to fight as someone with an artificial core, but the same principles should apply to you. Super strength, super speed, a sturdy body, and fast regeneration, all those traits we share even if on varying levels. The 3 most important things you should learn are, pushing the limits of your strength, evading, and attacking from afar. The limits of my strength? I stared at my hands, clenching and unclenching them. I mean us with the artificial core don't get any stronger than what we are now. Our powers gradually develop, but our bodies don't. Not drastically anyway, we're not going to become twice as strong even if we, I don't know, bench 600 pounds every day. It's a different case with Adumbri. You guys get physically stronger, in addition to your powers growing, as the infection develops, I supplied. Yeah, she agreed, looking sideways. It doesn't happen with the Adumbri of the 2MS since they control the infection of their clients. Customers who turn into monsters can't pay, I attempted to joke to make her more comfortable. You got that right, she said, grinning. And their infection is artificially induced in the first place, so it probably works differently for them. As for you, you'll naturally become physically stronger over time. I don't know how fast, but that's not what I meant by pushing the limits of your strength. What you'll push are your limits now. Oh, I see. I think. I wasn't sure what she meant by that. Like working out to get stronger? But before that, said Myra, let's talk a bit about evading and fighting from a distance. As much as possible, you should evade all attacks because you don't know how strong your enemy is. Why? I don't understand. Actually, I do. It was a precious lesson I learned when I fought Mr. Ogre in the underground arena of Eve. I'm strong now too. Okay, take Bob, for example. You remember him? He's one of the Adumbri who attacked your condo. I do. The one who chased us while we were trying to video Stella? Yep, that guy. He's a large guy, yeah. Very. But there are many large dudes out there, especially the ones taking drugs or those who undergo surgeries to get bigger. If you saw me wearing my huge armor covered in spikes up against Bob, and you don't know anything about the 2 of us, who would you bet on? You probably. You're bigger than him with your armor. Scarier looking too. I also don't know his powers or. I winced because timid Errand should be disgusted by the thought. Oh my God, are you okay now? I was able to regenerate it. Myra extended her left leg and pulled up her pants. Just some scarring left, should completely disappear in a couple of days. So, yeah, I think you get my point. There's no way of knowing how strong your opponent is, be it an Adumbri or a human decked out with bio-augmentronics, just by looking at them. And that's just physical strength. Powers or abilities is a whole nother issue. Evade all enemies. Got it. That includes normal humans too, she firmly added, pointing her finger at me for emphasis. We don't know if a random guy is hiding a secret weapon which could incapacitate or kill you. Or even if just normal guys with normal guns. I can handle bullet wounds, I said, playing the part of being inexperienced. You've been shot at before. When did this happen? At Eve? Aha. During the raid everyone was shooting at everyone else. I was trying to escape but still got hit. It was no big deal. I mean, it's painful but I can handle it. The bullet wounds on my legs healed pretty quickly. Errand, said Myra, shaking her head in disapproval. Because of our new bodies, we have this sense of invincibility. We get careless. Don't belittle guns. It takes one unfortunate bullet going through the right spot in our brains to stop our powers, and that includes healing. I'll keep that in mind, I said. Of course, I already knew this. It did take one bullet each to kill Vanessa and Dominic. But with that, Myra would feel happy she was able to correct me. I don't know why, but correcting someone felt more fulfilling than just plain old teaching. You were lucky you were able to escape during the raid. Did you transform into Red Ho Blanchette? Johann mentioned there were statements from witnesses who saw you there as Blanchette. Oh, I think it's because I was injured by an explosion. No, not the one that left a crater where Eve once was. Just that someone probably threw a grenade in my direction. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but when I'm severely injured, I transform into Blanchette as a defense mechanism. I wanted to add, just like that time you attacked me, but I stopped myself because I'm a big girl who's above pettiness. I could tell from Myra's expression she was expecting me to say it too. Instead, I said, and if I get severely injured as Blanchette, I transform into the wolf monster you saw at the docks. Injury is the trigger for your power? Myra said. I think so. I'm guessing it is. I gave her partially wrong information on how my powers worked. Half-truths were always better than outright lies. But, like I said, I can't control myself as Blanchette, even less as the giant wolf. A total blackout. You don't remember how you escaped from Eve? I shook my head. Not one bit. It worked out well in the end that you transformed. Your Blanchette form was able to escape. I don't want to transform, I said, shuddering. It feels like the Adumbry is taking over. Oh. I didn't mean it that way, my bad, Myra hurriedly said. She put her hand on my shoulder. Wow, she was feeling close to me now. I may not know how you feel, but Kelsey shared with me her experiences, so I think I can say I can understand what you're going through even if just a bit. Anyway, isn't this another reason why you should try to evade all kinds of attacks? Yeah, I guess you're right. And since you're going to keep your distance from your enemies, you should also learn to attack from afar. They say a baseball pitcher can kill a person with a good fastball by, I mean Rio. He told me someone died in a World Series game from getting hit with a baseball ball, not sure if that idiot was just pulling my leg. Even if his story isn't true, there's no question someone using super strength to throw a rock can kill people assuming you have good aim. Right. I nodded, remembering when I hurled an axe at Mr. Ogre. A rock, pots, soda cans from a vending machine, anything you can throw. I did that when we fought Bob. I threw a fire extinguisher at him, and a table, and some other things too. Good work on that one, Myra said. She looked at the floor while shifting her feet. I don't think I thanked you for your help that time. You did. Really? Yeah, I remember you thanked me, I lied with a smile. Maybe she did, but I didn't care enough to store it in my memory. Are we going to practice evading and throwing stuff? Like I'll try to evade your attacks. We're going to do that later. Let's circle back first to the other important thing you should learn. Pushing the limits of your strength. Are you ready? You'll be injured and I can handle it. I wore a determined expression. I'm not afraid of getting hurt, I'll be able to heal it anyway. Myra walked over to the part of the floor I punched earlier to show her I was no longer human. She knelt beside the crack and felt the depression. I can punch harder than that. Better if you try one of the pillars, she said. It's awkward to bend down and keep punching the floor. You're not strong enough to make this building collapse, are you? Oh, no, no. I'm just just kind of normal super strength. I don't know how to describe. I can't bend a heavy-duty bike lock, if that helps. We should be safe then. Myra patted the surface the column she chose. Punching. I know I said to keep your distance from your enemy, but I think this is the best way to understand the concept. Once you know how to go past your limits, you can use that in throwing things too. And there are going to be times you just can't avoid fighting in close combat, so it's good to learn how to punch. Go ahead and hit this as hard as you can. Here goes. I balled my right hand into a tight fist, feeling the crystals on my palm grate against each other. I imitated a boxer's stance I'd seen on TV as best as I could, not sure if this helps, then swung my fist forward with all my might, twisting my body along with it. The surface of the pillar cracked. Small pieces of the layer of cement finish fell off along with a puff dust. Ah! I said, cradling my elbow. I think it bent the wrong way. Ugh. I told you, you might get hurt, Myra said. But I didn't think you'll hurt yourself this way. Are your fingers and knuckles fine? My fingers are fine, it's just my elbow, I said through clenched teeth. I was just overreacting for theatric's sake. This pain was nothing, I had suffered through much, much worse. I'll teach you how to punch properly. She explained to me the importance of punching straight to avoid injuries and also to add power and speed to my punch. Then she gave me tips how to improve my form. Don't flare out my elbow, I said. Got it. Yes, keep your elbows close. Don't punch like you're bench pressing. She moved my body to the correct stance. Punch with your whole body, exerting force on the ground with your legs, and then rotating your body as you punch. I giggled while holding the punching pose. You sound like a sensei. She shrugged. I'm just repeating what Dario taught me. I noticed she had a slightly contemptuous tone when she said that. She gestured at the column. Go ahead and try again. Bam! Wow, I said, genuinely happy with how it turned out. I covered my nose and mouth from the dust, and also to hide a huge grin on my face. Imagine if that was a person's head. I'm going to watch and copy martial arts videos tonight. How's that? It's a really huge difference punching correctly. Is that what you meant by pushing the limits? Because I had bad form earlier, I injured my elbow and wasted a lot of my strength. Myra examined the part of the column I punched, then she checked my fingers and knuckles. No, you haven't gone past your limit yet. But I thought okay, I'll try again. Bam! Not the punch Myra was looking for. Bam! Still not it. What do I do? I said, watching her feel my fingers again. The skin on my knuckles were bruised, but the wounds were healing. Streaks of my blood were on the column. I can feel each punch get stronger, so I guess I wasn't pushing myself before that. But can you just tell me? I stared at my fingers, then remembered my injured elbow. You're checking if I punched hard enough to break my own fingers? Yep, she said. I was waiting for you to break them, then I'll urge you to push more. Bam! Let's rest first and wait for it to heal, then we continue. You're nearly there. Look at this. A mini crater, I said. Wow and ow wow. It was so beautiful. A small, but very noticeable cavity on the concrete column, radiating lots of cracks like the rays of the sun. It was hard to explain it, but I was weirdly proud of it. This seems like a fun thing to do. Hysterical strength, Myra said. There are lots of stories about feats of superhuman strength from normal people in emergency situations. A mother carrying several children as she escapes their burning house. A man lifting a car up to free someone underneath. An old lady fighting off a bear. Some of them are fake, but there are those that are true. The one about the old lady is probably a hoax. But last year, a guy was on the news for ripping off a car door to save his wife from their burning car. Ah, I recall that one. A lot of people were accusing him of being an adumbry. He was hospitalized for torn muscles and broken bones because of what he did, so not an adumbry. But for several seconds, he seemed to have superhuman strength. The term for that is hysterical strength. The common belief is the adrenaline rush in fight-or-flight situations boosts the body's performance, but there's no firm evidence supporting it. Adrenaline does help, but not to the level of hysterical strength. If it was that simple, it should happen more often. So, how do I tap this hysterical strength? Does it have something to do with punching so hard that I break my fingers? Sort of, Myra replied. Dario said that the bid had research on this since they are making super soldiers. It is supposedly more of a psychological barrier keeping us from fully tapping our strength. It's our body's way of making sure we don't injure ourselves. Take that guy who ripped off a car door. He did have that strength all along, but if he performed at that level all the time, his body would be destroyed. However, it's not the same with us. We can heal ourselves, I said. And very quickly too. I held up my injured hand and shook it. A couple more minutes and I think I'm good to go again. It's really a combination of good form when fighting so we won't unnecessarily injure ourselves, like what happened to your elbow, and getting past the psychological barrier of holding back our strength. The reason there isn't much research on this is because, how the hell do you even test this? We don't have any medicine that can heal people this fast. But the bid did test this. Because they have people with artificial cores. Yep. And Dario taught me that. And now I'm teaching it to you. This is just the start. There will be more injuries and pain to come. You'll probably have torn muscles when pushing the limits of your throwing power. Just tell me when you're ready and we'll continue with punching. I can tell you haven't even reached your limit yet. I'm good to go. Cue in training montage music from the 80s. There is no pain. Bam. Errand. Bam. Errand, that's enough, Myra said, her voice raised a notch. Bam. Bam. Errand. Errand. Stop now. I held my punch midway and pulled back my hand close to my chest. I blurted. My breathing was harried, my vision blurry at the edges. I didn't know why. I can still continue. I need to practice. I noticed my hand was shuddering uncontrollably. Patches of discolored skin covered my arm, a camouflage pattern but in violet and red. My fingers looked like they were jammed inside a meat grinder, the skin shredded away revealing sore bleeding flesh or what was left of it still clinging to my bones. I could no longer clench my fist. I couldn't even feel my hand, my arm or the right side of my upper body. Then I stared up at the column I was punching, and gasped. I did this? I couldn't believe the damage I caused, seeing it clearly only for the first time. Huge chunks of concrete, as large as my head or even bigger, had broken off the column as if a demolition team with sledgehammers were hired to dismantle it. There were places where the steel rebars reinforcing it were exposed, some of which were bent. It was like my fingers where the flesh had fallen off the bones. It's fair then. I mumbled while giggling, my woozy mind peculiarly giddy. Are you okay? Myra whispered with worry. She cautiously approached me. I mean, obviously you're not. Your hand. Is that all my blood? The debris had crimson splattered all over, reminding of a school project I had in elementary where we made colorful pictures using a toothbrush to flick watercolor onto sheets of paper. Just like a painting, I mumbled, weakly grinning. What are you talking about? Errand, can you hear me? Due to tiredness, my head drooped down. I noticed the small puddle of red between my feet, slowly expanding as more blood dripped from my hand to the floor. Look, my blood's here too, he. You're in shock. Errand. Errand. Sure, what do I do? Panic was evident in Myra's voice. I felt her hands shaking me as if that was going to make things better. She gently pushed me to my side, away from the pool of blood. Lie down, okay? Just lie down and rest. I curled up like a baby while hugging my arm. I breathed through my teeth as I forced myself to gradually get used to the pain. Ow, 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 I continued saying to stop myself from cussing the world. Errand, I'm really sorry, she said. I should have stopped you before it got worse. I felt her attempt to hug me, then she released me and ended up just patting my shoulder. Just concentrate on healing, you hear me? Listen to my voice. Don't think about it. Ugh, I moaned. Painful. Don't bend it that way. She pulled out my arm I was hiding and laid it straight over my side. Just relax and wait for it to heal, she said in a soothing voice. After becoming an Adumbri, I also suffered much worse than this. I got beaten to a pulp by Mr. Ogre in the arena. As a giant werewolf, I squeezed myself through the tunnels, not minding chunks of my flesh getting ripped off because I was too huge. And I was barbecued while escaping the explosion caused by the bid agents, and crawled out of a cave-in my human form. This is nothing. A few minutes and it will start to get better, said Myra. I'm really sorry I didn't do anything earlier. I should have stopped you. But I saw you were close to tapping your hysterical strength, that's why I hesitated. It's fine, I said, each word punctuated by belabored coughs. The pain was starting to become more bearable, but I still acted like I was paralyzed by the agony. Such a drama queen. I'm checking your bones, okay? She cautiously poked my arm. I winced. Oops, sorry. Bear with me for a bit. I groaned while she gingerly squeezed my arm. She kept on apologizing as she examined me. Satisfied with whatever she was checking, she said, you fractured your forearm. These red bruises under your skin are signs of internal bleeding. I don't think this happened because your form was bad, it was quite decent. You were punching straight, otherwise your injury would be with joints, like your elbow or shoulder. This is actually very good. I opened my eyes, blinking away the haziness. Then I raised a brow at her. She still looked very blurry to me. No. It's not good, she corrected herself. You're injured and that's bad. I mean it's good because you were able to push past your limits and use your hysterical strength. I did it. My arm was healing, the red parts were fading. Flesh and skin had mostly covered the bones on my hands. I think so, yep. Fracturing your forearm bones is the sign of that, Dario explained it to me before. Breaking the bones of your fingers is natural because you're punching something very hard, way harder than you. The forearm is different. If you put your forearm on the table and hit it with a hammer, then yeah, you'll break the bones. But if you apply pressure from the ends, like punching, then it takes a lot of force to break it. And since you were able to break it, that means you were able to tap your hysterical strength. Hooray, I muttered, giving her a weak smile. I can't believe you were able to do it this fast. Really impressive. You were like laser-focused punching the column that I was honestly kind of scared to stop you. None of us were able to do it she checked her watch. That took like 15 minutes. And for the last 5 minutes, you were just non-stop punching the column. How did you do that, just turning off feeling pain like a switch? That got my attention. Not the attaining hysterical strength part, although that was cool and all, but the part that I progressed differently from them. I don't know. I just thought really hard to punch really hard. It can't be as easy as that, she said. I needed several practice sessions to be comfortable, not sure if that's the right word, with breaking my fingers with each punch. And it took me double that time, probably even longer, to break my forearm bones because I couldn't accept the thought of intentionally injuring myself. I didn't try it anymore after managing to do it once. You, on the other hand, your focus is insane. My left cheek twitched. Must be because of law school. Need to really focus studying and all that. I study very hard at Melcher too. Maybe you're the type of person who zones out everything when doing a specific thing. I think I can do that when studying if I pushed myself, nothing to it. But it's very different with this training. I suppose we are breaking a psychological barrier, that's why it's so unsettling to do it. But you're different. Just wow. Different is bad. Erin, a first-year law student at the prestigious Cresthorn College of Law, was just a normal person. She didn't make any waves besides the occasional ripple on the social pond, she didn't stand out in a crowd, and was a bit on the timid side. Very far from different. Still, I wasn't concerned I may violate rule number 7, don't do anything that would break the character of the face I have on, because I already took into account that I might act differently in this situation. This was my first time knowing about hysterical strength and the psychological barrier connected to it, and I had no idea how others behaved when it came to this, so I already prepared a sort of catch-all excuse to explain any deviation from the norm. There was an Adumbry inside of me. Simple as that. I learned to do this even before rule number 7 was established. When I was a little girl, I didn't attend birthday parties of other kids because kids were irrational, selfish little shits. I much preferred the parties and other social gatherings of adults because I was entertained watching them interact with each other. This hadn't gone unnoticed, and Mom was eventually able to force me to go to the birthday party of Callie. I knew I was different from other kids and, even though my kiddie brain couldn't form a concrete explanation yet, I also knew being different was bad. So, I made an excuse that I was really nervous. Any weird shit I did during that party I'd just chuck to being nervous. Rule number 7 was made soon after that, and since then, whenever I knew I was getting into a situation where I didn't know how people would normally react, I have an explanation already prepared. I didn't know what came over me. I held up my still shaking right arm. After some point, I couldn't feel any pain. It's like something inside me took over. What did you say? Myra said, her brows furrowed in concern as she understood what I implied. I'm not sure if we should continue this. I'm not afraid of getting hurt. I already told you I'm prep. That's not what I mean, she cut in. I was thinking that maybe, she scratched the back of her head while glancing to the side. I'm not sure how to say. The Adumbry is taking root inside me and changing how I act. That's not. I mean, yeah, kinda like that. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? You're probably right. There was a small chance she could be, but it was likelier she wasn't. Spooky Erin didn't seem to want to directly influence me but rather enjoy the show as I struggled, she could be having fun right now. Maybe we should stop trying this. No. This just means I have to fight back the Adumbry inside me. I have to do this. I have to get stronger and learn how to fight to survive. I don't have anyone protecting me like the two MS protect their clients. I'm all alone. You got me and Johan. We don't really count much, but we'll help you. Thanks. I smiled at her. How sweet, I thought sarcastically. Can you tell me how it went for you? Practicing for hysterical strength, I mean. Sure, but there's nothing much to say. Myra deflated with a relieved sigh when I changed the topic. Just a whole lot of punching. We may have these superhuman bodies, but it feels so weird, not to mention painful as hell, to practice tapping our hysterical strength. While Myra shared her story, I thought about how normal people processed pain. I may be way off the mark here, but I think my kind had higher tolerance for pain. Or perhaps we processed pain differently and therefore had an easier time ignoring it than others. My mind wandered back to after I escaped the burning Sanders Mall and went home to my condo. I didn't have any hesitation trying to dig out the crystal on my palm with a knife even if I didn't have any idea about my regeneration ability at that time. Maybe there's really something to this. And you see, Myra said, that's why it's so difficult to do this. Everett took way longer than me to tap his hysterical strength. I went on autopilot mode, giving appropriate responses to Myra's story as I kept on thinking how I should react to pain. I knew there were women probably my kind who had no problem injuring themselves, sometimes severely, to frame guys for this shit or that. I did look up stuff about it when I was dangerously close to doing something like that myself during my undergrad days. A guy pissed me off because he was a useless piece of shit in a project that was a huge chunk of our grade in a major subject that I seriously contemplated framing him as a violent stalker. Thankfully, I thought about it for a week, and promptly forgot about being angry at that guy. I just anonymously reported him to the professor that he wasn't doing any work, and that was the end of that. Getting him arrested was probably not covered by rule number 4 and would take a huge amount of effort to pull off. And Rio just sucks, said Myra, heartily laughing. I laughed along with her even though I was barely listening to what she was talking about. Rio, that big baby, gave up after breaking his fingers a couple of times. He did make a good point that he'll just be hiding and summoning, so we didn't pressure him to keep on practicing. So, I looked over my arm. I'm ready to go again. Should we continue? What? You want to continue? She shook her head. That's enough for the day. It must be mentally exhausting to do this for you, to just like turn off feeling pain. Oh, okay then. Enough of hysterical strength. How about evading or throwing stuff? When do I get to practice those? Some other day. You should take a rest now. She nodded down at my body. Maybe next time, you can bring extra clothes. Ugh, yeah. My clothes were dirty. There were also red spots from my blood flying everywhere each time I punched. Blood were on my jeans from when I knelt down. I should go back to Dean's house before she returns so I can wash this off. Good idea. Maybe we can return here tomorrow. I was genuinely having fun with this. Practice those other things you mentioned. We'll see. We still have our mission later, and we might all be in jail by tomorrow if it doesn't work out well. Oh right, that. I don't really have a part in it besides keeping an eye on the activities of the protesters. Good luck to you guys though, I hope nothing bad happens. Thanks. Dean will be with us, and that makes everything so much safer. If all goes as planned, then we can practice tomorrow. I'm not sure what to teach you though. How about those martial arts stuff Dario did when you sparred with each other? I know you said to evade, but maybe I could do something like it. He wasn't blocking my attacks but redirecting it. I don't know how to do that. Even if I did, I still advise against doing it in actual combat. Same thing that I taught you applies, you don't know how much stronger your enemy is. Fancy karate moves won't work against Stella or Bob. Anyway, I'll think about what we'll do tomorrow, but for now let's focus on our mission. Okay then. Want me to drive you home? You might get funny stares on the train wearing clothes covered with dust and blood. Yes, please, I said, feeling a tiny bit of excitement to go home and search up martial arts videos online to study. And I rarely get excited. Learning new things is fun. Romello Staton tapped his pen on the page of his notebook as he listened to Detective Jacobin Castan on the phone. Lieutenant Hall is out of commission, said the young detective who has helped his uncle in his crusade against the Mark and Marcy criminal organization, but if he isn't, he'll also tell you to stop what you're doing. They got to you, and they can do. I know that. Romello snapped in a raised voice. I'm sorry, Jacob. I'm just on edge these days. But if Uncle Jerry is awake, I'm sure he won't let this slide either. He won't. He also wouldn't want you to snoop around on your own. You're putting yourself in danger. We can't just let them get away with this. Well, they aren't, okay? Just relax. The bid is on their case. They're on the ropes now. It's only a matter of time. They still have plenty of their cronies in the police and in City Hall, so we should all be careful. Me and Lynette, we're already doing our own digging around discreetly, of course. Let's just wait for LT to wake up. You're right, Romello replied, making up his mind not to pay heed to Caston's words and continue with what he was doing. Anyway, I'll visit Uncle later. I just have an appointment now. My foundation is helping clean up Fournier area. The city still hasn't sent people to clean the debris from the shockwave of the explosion. You just focus on that. LT will be proud. Romello leaned back in his chair while rereading his notes, as if the new position would provide a different perspective of analysis. He had everything in this little notebook, everything he has uncovered so far in his investigations. The missing security camera footages from the train station the day he was kidnapped and beaten up, the lack of witnesses, the lack of any updates to his case, the police stonewalling him. And all of this seemed connected to the Adumbry wearing a red hood. He closed his notebook when he saw a couple enter the cafe. A woman in a goth getup with several piercings, and a man in a coat and tie but also with amulets hanging from his neck. Two of the people from the SVS video, they were here. He waved at them. Are you Romello Staton? Inquired the woman. She compared him with a picture on her phone. You seem to be him. My name is Reginus. Not my actual name. I won't hold it against you if you try to search for my real name. Or maybe you already know if you're working with the cops. Reginus. Be more open-minded, will you? Said the man. He bowed to Romello. Apologies for that, Mr. Staton. It's hard to trust people nowadays. You can call me Mercator, also not my real name. I know where you're coming from, was Romello's honest reply. I understand if you're suspicious of me. Have a seat. Reginus placed a small orb, the size of a ping-pong ball, in the middle of the table. It appeared to be made of iron with various symbols roughly carved on its surface. An all-seeing eye, Reginus explained, which only made Romello confused. It will tell me when you're telling lies. Romello was starting to doubt reaching out to this group, but he forced himself to ignore their peculiar antics. Sure, go ahead. You can also pat me down if you want. No, that's not necessary, Mercator said. We checked your background. I hope you don't find that offensive and concluded the police won't use someone like you to be an undercover agent to spy on our group. You guys concluded that, Reginus hissed at her partner, closing her fist on the all-seeing eye. I still don't trust this guy. She turned to Romello and whispered furiously, in your message, you said you have met Red Hood before. But there's no news about it. Zero. How do you expect me to believe that? I got my meeting on video on the news. Romello held up his hands. Calm down and I'll explain. Meeting Red Hood, I can't remember much. Wait. Before you react, I'm saying I can't remember because I was badly beaten up that time. He pointed to his bandages and also pulled up his shirt to reveal traces of his injuries. Are you saying Red Hood beat you up? That can't be. She's a good Adumbry. We shouldn't have come. Red Hood saved me. What? The criminals the bid was hunting in this city? The cause of the explosion? They're the ones who beat me up. That was a few days before the explosion happened. And as I lay on the floor barely conscious, Red Hood came to save me. Or perhaps she came to fight them, but she saved me in the process. Huh? Why would they beat you up? And why would Red Hood save you? My uncle, Lieutenant Jeremiah Hall of the LEPD, he's investigating these criminals. They obviously hurt me as a warning to him. That's all I know. I don't know why Red Hood saved me. Lieutenant Jeremiah Hall sounds familiar, Mercator said. Isn't he one of the cops injured during Red Hood's escape from Serenade Bazaar? You want to catch her and take revenge? Reginus exclaimed. Luckily, the cafe was mostly empty. The woman typing on her laptop by the window gave them an annoyed glance. The cashier just continued staring at the TV. "Reginus, keep it down. Let's hear what he has to say first. Red Hood saved my life, but also put Lieutenant Hall in the hospital. I want to meet her and find the truth." "The truth?" "The truth," Romello repeated. Then he opened his notebook to tell his story. Myra Fletcher gave Aaron a sidelong glance while the latter was calling Dean to check if she already went home. Other than her clothes covered in dirt and bloodstains, Aaron appeared normal, no difference whatsoever with the Aaron she first met at Melcher Hall the day Kelsey disappeared. "Yeah, the signal is better now," said Aaron on the phone. She paused as Dean responded with something Myra couldn't hear, to which she replied, "Are you still at Cresthorn?" "I'm going home now. I'll just wait for you before ordering dinner." "Who are you?" Myra thought, her eyes narrowed. "We can have food delivered," Aaron said. "How about pizza? Or burgers?" She laughed, obviously teasing Dean with the fast food options. "You don't like those?" "Why not?" She spoke nonchalantly as if she didn't destroy her arm less than half an hour ago with absolutely no hesitation. Myra leaned forward to get a better view of Aaron's right arm resting on her lap. It seemed to have mostly healed, the skin on the arm a healthy pale pink, there was still scarring on the fingers. Aaron noticed her stare and grinned, pointing at the phone, assuming that Myra also thought her fast food joke was funny. "Are you still errand?" "I can cook dinner too," she told Dean. "We can buy groceries at that small convenience store, I forgot the name. The one a block away from the park. That should be fun." Or is this already the Adumbry controlling you? The horrifying memory of Erend in a trance-like state, continuously smashing her fist against concrete, was fresh in Myra's mind. Debris, flesh, blood flying everywhere. Erend not even uttering a sound as her arms slowly got more and more injured with each punch. It reminded her a bit of Bob, who didn't show any reaction to her attacks. How could anyone do that? And it was only Erend's first time, yet she wasn't affected at all by the ordeal. Myra herself needed a couple of hours to zone out after her first session because she was overwhelmed with intentionally inflicting injury on her body. "I'm on my way home," Erend said. I mean your house. It's my home now too." More laughter and inside jokes between her and Dean. "I'm going to take the train and maybe ride a taxi from the station. It's too hot to walk from the bus stop. See you later." "But bye. She's still at university?" "Yep. And since we have time, can we pass by the podium? I just need to buy something quick." Erend explained her made-up story to Dean about getting new glasses. "So that was what you guys were talking about, an eye exam. Isn't that going to take a while? And you'll wait for the glasses too?" "I'm just going to buy at the department store. Non-prescription ones?" "Is that what you'll buy? I suppose they have those at the podium. I thought you had prescription glasses." "I did use prescription glasses before. But I no longer need them." "What do you mean?" "Like your vision is, oh, I see. Yes, my vision was cured when I became a you-know." Erend sighed. "One of the small advantages, but I still prefer being a normal human with blurry eyesight." Myra gritted her teeth. She hated it when pangs of guilt hit her. "Mom, I mean our aunt who took care of us, not my actual mom who I don't call to mom, she uses reading glasses because she can't read fine print anymore. I'll buy fashion eyeglasses. Reading glasses strains my eyes if I wear them constantly." "Ah, okay." Myra chewed her tongue. "How do I keep the conversation going?" Unable to think of a good topic that didn't involve Adumbry or Corbrains, she just settled with turning on the music to cover the awkward silence. "Am I hastening Erend's infection?" Myra was starting to see hints of the Adumbry in Erend. Surely, it was a result of practicing how to attain hysterical strength. It was such an alien concept to the normal human psyche that it could have negative effects on Erin's mind, making it easier for the Adumbri to take over her. But I also need Erin to get stronger. If this was what it took to get her sister back, then so be it. Even better if Erin was able to control her Blanchette form. It would be a great asset, and they were going to inevitably fight Dario and the secret organization he was working for head-on. How should she go about convincing Erin to practice controlling her powers? Maybe she could push further and make her transform into the giant wolf Mons. Myra? What's up? We're near the podium. Or do you want to go somewhere else to buy your glasses? I was thinking. Why do we, you guys, have to break in the hospital and find Julie? There's no need to wipe her memory, is there? They'll protect us anyway, whoever they are. It did cross my mind, Myra said. And I think Dario is doing this to keep up his story that we're just a ragtag band of vigilantes working with a soul scientist. If we succeed, then less work for them. Erin clicked her tongue. Theatrics, huh? Theatrics. For all we know, Julie has already spilled the beans about you, and the cover-up is already underway. But we still have to do this so Dario won't suspect we know something's wrong. I suppose that's true. Doesn't make it any less dangerous. The police or the bid could still kill us if we make a mistake. Erin sighed. Yeah. Let's focus on shopping for your glasses. It may look like she was distracting Erin from depressive thoughts, but she was also distracting herself from feeling guilty for everything bad that happened to Erin. And she was using her now to boot. I should be nice with her. Grab that Melcher sweater and tie it around your waist. It should be long enough to cover the blood on your jeans. And I have an extra shirt here that you can wear. It's going to be weird walking around the store with bloodstains on you. Is this errand? Amber Dean stopped reading the 2010 issue of Allure she took from under the coffee table of their living room when she heard the sound of an incoming car. She peeked over the magazine, hoping that it was finally her best friend. Fashion articles from more than a decade ago were mildly entertaining, but she had been sitting here for more than 15 minutes and it was getting uncomfortably hot. The balding tree beside the wrought iron bench she sat on provided next to no shade. Her sister's hoodie that she wore to hide her hair and face, one that Erin hadn't seen before, was making her sweat like as she stopped her thought, remembering that Adrian had told her a trivia about pigs being incapable of sweating. From the edge of Green Meadows, she observed the car climbing the winding road up Poblacion Verde Hills. It wasn't a taxi. It was a red Rolls-Royce Wraith. Erin could have used a ride-hailing app like John's, but Dean was certain she wasn't in this car even if the windows were heavily tinted. Jaunts with a Rolls-Royce in their fleet? There was no way. In fact, she recognized this particular car. She had seen the son of one of the committee members of the Homeowners Association drive it. The moment Erin told her over the phone she was coming, Dean decided to stake out the road going to their house. She was curious if Erin was alone or with someone else, perhaps Myra or Johan, or maybe some other people were trying to get close to her, to trick her, to take advantage of her. And what if those people were Adumbri? No one is going to hurt Erin. That was a promise. How about Madame Blanchette? Dean hadn't thought of her before. She pondered how Madame Blanchette figured into everything, and whether she was going to be friend or foe the next time they met. Did the mysterious Adumbri have something to do with Erin getting infected? Or was she trying to stop the two MS from doing something to Erin? What if she came to take Erin? Logically speaking, wasn't her best friend better off with Madame Blanchette since they were both Adumbri? The latter seemed to be a good person, as good as an Adumbri could be. And Dean did team up with her in the Eve Arena. Still, Dean wasn't so sure she was going to give Erin up to anyone. She was navigating her thoughts about Madame Blanchette when a familiar car came into view. That's Myra's, right? She mumbled to herself with a raised brow. She had seen that same car parked at the Tulips Nook during their lunch meeting, and also at Cindy's the day before. Yes, I'm sure it's Myra's car. She tried to get a glimpse of its occupants while keeping the magazine up to cover the lower half of her face. The petite woman riding the passenger's seat had long black hair. Could be Erin, could be any other woman with black hair, she was too far away to confirm. The driver, however, had striking blue hair. Definitely Myra. Dean walked back to her own car parked on the side of the park, opposite of the road to Poblacion Verde. After getting inside, she turned on the air condition, took off the sweatshirt, and stared at a couple of children playing frisbee with their golden retriever. So, they're together. The barking of the dog snapped her out of her reverie. She texted Erin, "I'm on my way home." But she didn't drive just yet, it was too soon, too suspicious. She watched the people at the park for another 5 minutes while waiting for her sweat to dry. Then she reapplied her makeup to look like she had just been from school. She also had donned the clothes she wore when she and Erin left the house this morning. Time to meet Erin. So classes were cancelled because of that incident? Erin asked after Dean explained why she went home early, a partially tweaked version of the true events. I suppose it's better to just stay home nowadays if we don't have anything important to do outside. She was sitting on a couch watching TV. The pedestal fan in the living room was pointed at her wet hair. She took a shower. But Erin went just to the mall, why would she need to shower? It was such a hassle to dry long hair. Dean didn't point it out, instead saying, "Don't forget we do need to go out later. Our mission, remember? I'm just a lookout. It's you guys who will be crawling in the midst of police and bid agents. Be careful later, okay? I have my guardian angel with me, it never failed me so far. By the way, how was your eye exam?" "Nothing much to it." She tapped the eyeglasses she wore. "I got a rose gold frame. What do you think of it? It looks cute. Can I see it?" No, it might make your head hurt if you try it on." "I'm not, I'll just. And I'm a bit iffy with letting other people touch my glasses. I'm not a germaphobe or anything like that, I don't think your hands are dirty either. Not sure why, but I'm just weirded out with other people touching my glasses. Kinda like with my toothbrush." I get you," Dean said, even though she didn't, laughing so that Erin wouldn't think she was particularly interested with the glasses. She'd try to find a way to check them later if they were prescription or not. "Anyway, what is that humming sound? The washing machines?" "Oh. I'm washing my clothes. There was this annoying guy who bumped into me at the mall. Spilled fruit shake down my front. It's so embarrassing to ride the train with a huge stain on my shirt." "Is that why you took a shower?" "Yeah, it was so sticky." Dean blinked. Erin was prepared with all these lies. She's this committed to hiding her secrets from me. Maybe I'll take a shower too. Freshen up before our mission later. And a hot shower will calm my nerves. She waved goodbye to Erin as she walked to the stairs, but she didn't go up to the next floor, swerving instead to the laundry room to have a peek at what Erin was washing. I'm sure she won't mind, she thought, intending to look for clues as to what Erin and Myra were up to. For self-defense, barked the overly upbeat, brawny instructor in the video I was watching, better use low kicks. These are much harder to block compared to high kicks. And while you're at it, you can also put your attacker off balance by sweeping their legs. All of that, and more, coming up in this episode. I had time to splurge on random stuff, just hanging out in this rundown pub tucked away in an unassuming side street that branched off Marshall Avenue, about 20 minutes of brisk walking away from the hospital because Dean wanted me to be as safe as possible, waiting for the hero wannabes to wipe Julie's memories. Instead of watching movies, and it had been a long time since I just sat down and ate pizza while having a movie marathon, I decided to use my time effectively and learn how to fight. I was excited to check out kicking tutorials after my teensy-weensy experience in punching. Erin, your goal is not to do a flying kick, I sternly reminded myself. After hopping from one random internet video to the next for the last 10 minutes, very reputable source materials, I know I came to learn that kicks weren't really advisable in like a serious fight, or I guess street fight was the appropriate term. It was too slow and could easily put me off balance. Low kicks though seemed to be pretty useful. This could be the reason the Taekwondo varsity members back in high school rarely did those fancy kicks when they sparred. When us cheerleaders practiced at the gym, the Taekwondo team was often also there, doing their own thing in an area that was sort of modified into a makeshift dojo with tatami mats laid on the floor. I sometimes watched them, amazed that they could kick higher than their height. Some of them were more flexible than me, and I was pretty flexible now, I wouldn't dare try to split. I observed they used mostly low kicks when fighting with each other, even though they were more than capable of other types of kicks. Well, now I know. The instructor guy was demonstrating a foot sweep. It didn't need much power but mainly focused on speed to put the enemy off balance. Hard to guard against because it was unexpected, and a quick way to take down someone. I was warming up to this move. Once my enemy was on the ground, I could make a run for it or stay around and bash his head in. Plenty of options. Note I'm sweeping at an angle, instructor guy said, repeating I guess it was a low kick of sorts, an outside sweep, in slow motion on his demo partner. I'm hitting the front leg of Dennis, see that my kick is connecting at ankle level, bringing it to the back leg. And there, he said, executing the move, bringing Dennis down, swept both feet off the ground. Thank you for the help, Dennis. He clasped hands with his partner and pulled him off the floor. I can probably do that, I whispered to myself. It was way easier than those over-the-head kicks, and seemed more practical too. Guys, note it's not just the feet. Instructor guy swayed his partner to the left and right like they were dancing. Both arms and feet work together to take down your opponent. If Dennis here, just Dennis, can you stand straight? See, if he stands straight, and I did this, I end up the one off balanced. So, you should coordinate pulling your opponent with sweeping their feet. I nodded. Makes sense. Or I could also wait for my opponent to move, like step forward or something, then hook his feet. It all sounded good in theory, but just watching videos wasn't enough. I should try to practice this on someone. I couldn't exactly sweep a concrete column off its feet, the lack of actual feet being the hardest obstacle, I thought sarcastically. Perhaps I could convince Myra to spar with me. She told me I should avoid fighting head-on, but this sweep thingy seemed a good defensive move to learn. I scrolled through the comments section of the video to see if I could learn helpful inputs. I didn't figures. It was just full of people bragging they could do better moves, or pointing this or that as the mistake of the instructor guy. Everyone's an expert on the internet, I guess. Just kick him in the balls, I read one comment, snorting through my mask. Well, that was unironically good advice compared to the other comments. What if I did kick a guy's junk? I vaguely recalled hearing that a man died due to a kick in the balls. Whether that was true or just an urban legend, I positively could kill someone with a super strength kick to the nuts. Scrambled eggs, I mused, giggling. Okay, I knew I was being immature, but I just couldn't help myself. The image of a super-powered groin kick got stuck in my head. I looked around for anything that would distract me from my stupid juvenile humor, and noticed my untouched drink, a cucumber lemon mocktail. When I ordered this drink, the bartender gave me a weirded out, almost condescending look. From his appearance, and that of this little bar, I wasn't even sure if he has made a non-alcoholic drink in the last decade. I was half expecting him not to know what a mocktail was. I turned to the window and pulled my mask up just a bit so that I can sip from the straw. Wow! This actually tasted great. I fixed my mask and turned to the counter, spotting the bartender glancing in my direction, checking my reaction. I gave him a thumbs up and he nodded at me in return with a smug smile on his face. There were only two other customers beside me, a guy passed out drunk in one booth, his head hidden by empty bottles, and another guy at the counter chatting with the bartender. The TV above the right side of the wine cabinet had its volume turned up, perhaps to make the place livelier than it was. I bet this bar was packed if there weren't stupid stuff going on lately. I turned away from the three of them, facing the window again so I could enjoy my mocktail without revealing my face. The windows were covered by thick, dusty curtains, so no one could see me from the outside too. All in all, an unexpectedly cozy spot to pass the time. I hadn't been to a place like this before. Another new experience, I had plenty of those the past 3 weeks. Dean, on the other hand, didn't like this bar and was reluctant leaving me here. But we had no choice because we couldn't find any other shop or store where I could stay while waiting for them. Most of the establishments along Marshall Avenue and the surrounding streets had closed down because of the violence of the protests, with riots and looting wrecking many businesses in this area. We were actually surprised to find a bar open here. My guess was the owner thought tonight was going to be relatively peaceful, most of the protesters stirring up shit at the memorial instead, and tried to keep his business going. Poor guy. Someday, when everything was calm, I planned to come back here and try more drinks. I pulled back the curtains to check the street outside. It was dark, most of the streetlights had been smashed. With the dim light coming from the bar, I could pick out silhouettes of people passing by. This area wasn't as empty as we expected it to be. Should I go out and have a look? I was supposed to be a lookout after all, observing the movements of the protesters and the police, updating MC, who was guarding Oberon, if there was anything dangerous going on. But no one actually expected me to snoop around. Nonetheless, I was kinda itching to go out, already bored with watching videos. I enjoyed people watching just like I was entertained by nature documentaries, learning how they behaved, picking up habits and reactions that could help me build faces. The city was undergoing a once-in-a-lifetime crisis, and this might be my only opportunity to study how people behave. And now we have an exclusive interview with the leader of the Protectors of the City movement, the news reporter boomed on TV. I heard it because I paused the video I was watching while wandering my thoughts. I took off my earphones and turned to the TV upon hearing the interesting topic. From what I gathered watching tidbits of news these past few days, the Protectors of the City movement, or PCM, were the biggest group among the protesters. I also saw flyers and posters about them scattered everywhere. "Get a load of this guy," the customer sitting by the counter said, pointing at the TV with his mug. He and the bartender stopped their conversation to listen to the news. The PCM leader came on screen. His appearance was far from what I imagined. He had a meek posture, almost making him invisible from the backdrop of the massive crowd before the reporter interviewed him. There wasn't an air of charisma around him that I expected from someone controlling a more radical group. He actually looked like an overworked scientist in a movie, figuring out how to save the world from some sci-fi disaster, his brown hair disheveled, pronounced bags under his eyes, looking 5 years older than he probably was. Managing a large group of people took its toll on him. "I'm not a leader," he said. The name Oren Cohen appeared on screen. "I am but a guide to everyone wanting the safety of La Esperanza. The PCM doesn't have a leader, for everyone has a voice, and that voice is united." I raised a brow when he spoke. Again, unexpected. This Oren guy had a southern accent, but with super clear pronunciation, the stress in every word perfect. I wasn't sure how he did it because southern and clarity didn't go hand in hand. My grandmother on my father's side lived in the deep south and I couldn't understand anything she said. Our united voice gathered here to speak to the mayor, to let him know of the dangers our city is facing, to let him know that the people will not sit down in their homes and do nothing, to let him know that the people will act if he does not. His voice was strong and powerful, peppered with a large smattering charisma. This was how he was able to lead his organization. "Keep it down, Larry," said the bartender, consolingly patting his shoulder. "The people are scared. Scared people band together. And yeah, I know. And scared people in a large group do stupid things. Things like burning my food truck." The news reporter asked Oren, "Mr. Cohen, what about the allegations that the PCM is vandalizing public property, especially the buildings donated by the McHunters, like the hospital for X? As I've said, Oren interjected, I am only a humble guide that serves the united voice of the people. While united, there are some who have more extreme views in achieving the goal, perhaps misguided views. Defacing public property built by the accursed McHunters, the family who brought the Adumbri curse to La Esperanza, is but an outlet to the feelings of anger by the people. Boy. I was wearing a hoodie and face mask to hide my identity, so it was easy to mistake my frame as a teenage boy. Fine, I wasn't going to get offended by this. I looked to the bartender with questioning eyes. Best not to engage the drunk dude. The bartender mouthed an apology to me. He turned his friend away from me. Don't bother the other customers, Larry. Let the poor girl enjoy her drink. Poor girl. Where the hell did this come from? The bartender might have assumed I was a runaway or something. But what about your ultimatum to the mayor? The news reporter pressed on. That you will attack the EFU Medical Center if the casualties of the two major Adumbri attacks are not. Attack is such a strong word, Oren said, once again not letting the reporter finish. The will of the people is the safety of La Esperanza. It is but logical that we take the dangerous elements out of the city. Peaceful relocation is the term that I will use. If the police do not stop us, everything will be peaceful and orderly as we relocate these patients to institutions outside the city and away from the population. What a load of bull crap, yelled Larry. I couldn't help but grin. That was some intense mental gymnastics there to justify a riot. This Oren guy would make a fine lawyer. Maybe he was. He had really good public speaking and bullshitting skills. Mr. Cohen, any message to the mayor? Mr. Mayor, we, the people. Ringing bells made me, the bartender, and Larry look towards the entrance. It was the wind chimes singing as a group of people opened the door and entered the bar. I know I shouldn't judge people by their appearance, but these four men looked like they weren't going to be customers but came here to stir up shit. The symbol on the bandanas they tied to their upper arms was enough to identify them as members of the PCM, just like what I'd just seen on the news. What can I get you, gentlemen? The bartender asked. The large guy in the lead wearing a maroon beanie said, we are looking for members of the Silent Vigil Society. My ears pricked up. The SVS. I assume you've heard of them. Those cuckoos thinking Adumbri are good. Larry said. No, we haven't, the bartender said. Haven't heard of them. Haven't seen them. What did you say? The scrawny man behind Beanie Guy grabbed Larry by the collar. See this, old man? He showed the bandana on his arm. We're protecting this city while you old farts just sit here and drink the remainder of your life away. Get your hands off me, you disrespectful brat. Oh, trouble. It was easy to see what these idiots wanted with the SVS. They were angry at Adumbri. The SVS were pushing the narrative that there could be good Adumbri ahem, moi. That was probably the wrong use of moi. Harper, let him go, Beanie Guy said. He was larger and stronger than the twig Harper and easily pulled him away from Larry. This is a business, the bartender said indignantly, puffing his chest to make himself look bigger, but he was still dwarfed by Beanie Guy. If you're not going to order anything, you can leave instead of causing trouble. Just have some business with the SVS, sir, he replied, adopting a more respectful tone. They were spotted nearby earlier. We'll leave after we make sure none of their members are hiding here. I could take these guys on. Don't forget about guns, Myra's reminders floated in my head. Yeah, whatever. Beat these guys up, and then what? Draw attention to myself? Very suspicious if a tiny woman clobbered four grown men. Not this one, another PCM member said, pulling up the head of the passed-out guy to check his face. I told you, they're not here. The bartender came around the counter with a bat in his hand. Not so fast, old man, Harper said, patting the bulge on the side of his hip covered by his sweatshirt. We packin', dot. For our own safety, Beanie Guy clarified, pushing Harper behind him. He held up his hands as a sign of peace. We'll just check that boy over there and we'll be on our way. Again with the boy. I stood up and moved towards the door. It wasn't good to expose myself as an Adumbry, not as a girl. I was just going to force myself past these guys and run away. Leave that harmless girl alone, the bartender said. He's a girl. The SVS have female members too, Harper said as he approached me, pulling up his sweatshirt to reveal his gun. Take off your mask or I'll take it off for you. Oh, I don't think I should. I ignored them and went to grab the doorknob. Harper cursed and lunged at me, but the bartender grabbed him. You old fart, let go of my gun. Harper. Don't do something stupid here. Go. Run away, shouted the bartender. Thank you, I hurriedly said as I exited and made my escape. I heard Harper scream in rage. I looked back, seeing Harper disentangle himself from the bartender to go after me. But Larry jumped on him and bashed his head with a bottle. The rest of the PCM members joined the fray. Their leader, Beanie Guy, took one last look at me, our eyes meeting. My mind was already worrying, planning what to do if he chased me. I could try the foot sweep thingy on him. But he probably decided I wasn't one of the people they were looking for, diving instead into the mass of fighting men, trying to break it up. Mental note, visit the bartender next time and buy more drinks. Such a nice person, helping me without even knowing who I was. A genuinely good and selfless person. Would you look at that, I already found something interesting tonight. Since I was already out here, might as well find other interesting stuff. And if those guys decided to follow me, I was going to kick their balls. I giggled like an idiot as I strolled along the dark street, a funny thought wiggling back in my head. Scrambled eggs, hee hee hee. Ugh, I should grow up. Cue in dark and mysterious noir jazz background music. All alone, walking late at night. The rough and seedy part of the city isn't safe to traverse for a girl like me. Well, I wasn't exactly alone. There were other people hanging out around here. Many others. I didn't make eye contact or so much as glance in their direction when I passed them. In the corner of my eye, I saw most had the distinct splash of yellow of the PCM members, be it shirts, masks, bandanas, or armbands. I really wanted to experiment making a drastically new face to interact with them, but it was perhaps better to avoid any confrontation. Some other time then. It also wasn't that late. Only 8:46 p.m., my phone's clock told me. If everything was normal, this area would just be starting to stir in this city that never sleeps. Things, however, weren't normal. To be fair, this wasn't a seedy place, although it did look the part now with trash littered everywhere, graffiti of a clenched fist, the symbol of the PCM, on the walls and windows of buildings, among other acts of vandalism. This was supposed to be the exact opposite of seedy since this was fricking downtown. A small side street, okay, but this area was always crawling with people at this hour, all the shops open and full of customers. Was before the riots happened. And while it wasn't safe for a normal girl to be here now, an Adumbry girl like me would fare just fine so long as I didn't attract the attention of the police who were woefully absent. They must be at the memorial for the people who died, holding back the protesters. The only thing that was correct in my intro spiel was that it was dark. Sure, the streetlights were busted and yet to be replaced by the city, but wasn't there supposed to be a full moon tonight? I kept track of the sunrise each day with an app, accordingly setting my alarm for it. I always wanted to drink tea while watching the sky light up as the sun popped over the horizon. It wasn't a rule, just something I've been accustomed to during law school. When using this app, I sometimes inadvertently also see the scheduled phases of the moon. The full moon is on Sunday, I realized after checking the app. But shouldn't this Friday night already have a pretty bright moon? Could be smog blanketing the city. La Esperanza was an overcrowded metropolis, pollution was unavoidable. The smoke from the Eve explosion probably just made things worse, nasty particles and shit still floating up there in the sky, not to mention the tons of others fires that spread as collateral damage when the shockwave swept over the city. And Stella also burned a lot of buildings a couple of days ago. My phone vibrated, its light I used to illuminate my path flickering. A message or a call? A call. It's Mom. There was no one around me. I darted to the gap between two buildings to hide myself. I looked at the name of my screen again, and then sighed. Might as well get this over with. Hello, Mom. How are things in there? I forgot which country she was supposed to be in right now. Hi, Erin sweetie. Wrapping up everything with my current project, just the usual. How about you? I'm fine, Mom. Cheryl, my assistant, you remember her, right? She showed me videos on the internet of the riots at La Esperanza, dear me. It might be best if you don't go to school for now. I'm sure your professors will understand. I can write them a letter. We're having classes online, Mom, don't worry. I'm safe here at Dean's place. We don't go out anymore because it's too dangerous. We even have food delivered. Thank the Mother Corps you have a friend like Dean. I wanted to tell you to try to find your own place, but it might be better to be with her until everything calms down. Just wait for me and we'll find you a new condo together. I already asked Cheryl to search the internet for reputable listings in your area. Okay, Mom. I'll try to search too to add to our options. Have you eaten yet? What are you doing? Is Dean there with you? I haven't talked to her yet. Shit. The mom questions were starting. Evasive maneuvers. I just had a quick dinner, need lots of time to study. We're both studying since we have a major test on Monday. She's inside her room while I'm in mine. Oh, I do hope I wasn't bothering you, Erin sweetie. You're not. I can take a break now. I always have time for you, Mom. But I need to return to studying soon, I have a lot of material to cover. Our professor is a really grouchy one. He doesn't care about what's going on in the city, just that the test needs to push through next week. Well, I'm sure he's concerned with your education, and so should you. And yes, don't forget to take breaks and rest your eyes. Anyway, Erin dear, I called to tell you that I already bought my airplane tickets. I'll arrive there Sunday night. Gears were grinding inside my head. I forgot Mom was going to come visit me. I don't think there's going to be any issue, is there? Really, Mom? That's great. Did you have a hard time booking a flight? Just asking daughter things before I attempt to end the call. Mom had mentioned there were more requirements because of the recent Adumbrey attacks, the usual knee-jerk reactions of politicians to come up with not-so-thought-out rules overnight. Very hard. Fortunately, I have Cheryl to arrange everything for me. And instead of buying a direct flight over Europe, she bought me a connecting flight via Singapore. Why? Isn't that way longer? The Madagascar situation is getting out of hand. Can't say it's just a Madagascar situation now, since Adumbrey are roaming the fringes of the African mainland. What's worse is that there are plenty of flying Adumbrey. They haven't made their way up to Europe yet, and experts say they won't, especially with the air forces of the Central African Union patrolling their airspace. But if even a single one is sighted over Europe, I fear that flights will be cancelled in a heartbeat. I had no idea the crisis was worsening, I said with a gasp. Our news is filled with what's happening over here in this city, having 2 Adumbrey attacks and all that. I should watch international news too. I pray every day for the Mother Corps to help the people of Africa. And yes, you should keep yourself updated with what's happening in the world. The purple bloom still hasn't been found. Some experts say it might be deep underwater. Just like the one at the Philippines where Dad used to work, was going to be the continuation of my sentence, but I held my tongue. I didn't want any cheesiness tonight. Dad was the site director of the UN facility studying the Devliocean sinkhole, the result of the fight between high overseers and one of the largest purple blooms to form after the invasion for possible perpetual energy applications. If the Madagascar purple bloom was as big as the one that showed up in the Philippines 50 years ago, the core brings need to wake up more high overseers. Mom may not have heard what I said, or just pretended to ignore it. She said, "This is such an awful year, and we're only 2 months in. May the Mother Core protect us. I know you're not keen on going to church, sweetie, but you should try to attend online masses." I'll try, Mom. But I should focus on studying now. Yes, go ace that test," she said enthusiastically. "I'm not going to disturb you anymore. I'm excited to see you. See you soon, Mom. Take care." And end. Good thing she didn't tell me she loved me. All these years and I still wasn't satisfied with how I responded to it. I poked my head out the street, checking if the coast was clear. There were people the next block over, congregating underneath a rare working streetlight. PCM members with their smattering of yellow. One guy, maybe the leader, was pointing this way and that, giving directions to the others. Then their group divided into pairs, turning on their flashlights and going their separate ways. Were they looking for me? But they didn't know who I was, or even what I looked like besides the general description of a person wearing a hoodie and a mask. That was basically 80% of the people I had seen while I walked around. It was likelier they were closing in on the SVS. And here I was thinking all these groups were together. Turns out, the SVS was the odd one out, the black sheep of radicals, kinda weird to put it that way. Really dumb for Reginus and her gang to show their faces here. What were they doing around these parts? A couple of the PCM member were walking in my direction. I sunk back in the shadow, watching them pass by. Reginus and the SVS, should I help them? They were technically a very stretch technically at that on my side, since they fervently believed I was a good Adumbri. And I liked that image. I really do. Blanchette was my first public face, even if unintentionally so public, as in it was a face for everyone, and not tailored to a specific person or just a small group. Having a taste for the theatrics, I was growing attached to the narrative the SVS was pushing that I, me as Blanchette, was a hero at Adumbri. And I have to tell them my name is Blanchette, not Red Hood. In any case, I should learn about the situation. First things first, I should grab one of these PCM people to get some info. Fortunately, the lead PCM guy was still under the streetlight, reading a paper while talking to someone on the phone, could be his superior. His underlings weren't there anymore, making my job easier. It was only him that I wanted. He put his phone and notes back inside his jacket and walked down the street. I followed him, transferring from one hiding spot to another, behind a lamppost, a mailbox, a tree. I bet I really looked funny while doing this. So how does this work? Just run up to him and grab him? And if he didn't want to answer me, then what? Like beat him up until he does? Wasn't that torture? Yeah, I guess. I didn't have any other way of forcing him to reveal to me what he knew about the SVS. I really hoped he wouldn't play hardball because I wasn't sure how the torture part would work out. I had no experience doing it to anyone besides insects when I was a little kid. Since I got entangled with the PCM SVS business, I felt like I could justify torture under rule number 4. Furthermore, this was also justifiable under defending self-defense of sorts, because I would be protecting the good name of my Blanchette face. The two of us soon left the bright umbrella of the streetlight. Just follow his flashlight, I told myself while doing my utmost to shadow him quietly. I carefully treaded my path because I couldn't see shit. I didn't want to risk using my phone because this guy might look behind him and see me. He turned left into a narrow side alley. I might lose him. I darted out from behind a parked car that had its windows smashed, and ran as quietly as I could. A flash of purple light. Without thinking, I rolled to the side, and hid myself as best I could behind a small shrub which really didn't provide much cover. Footsteps. Light growing brighter. Someone was coming out of the alley. The faint footsteps, they sounded different from the PCM guy from earlier, probably from a smaller person. More than one. Multiple shadows were cast on the side of the building beside the mouth of alley. He had others with him. I tensed up, bringing my right hand near my face. But I didn't summon my mask because that would reveal my location with gold light. My brows raised as high as they possibly could when out came two children. The hell did these two brats come from? Not my fault if something bad happens to them, I thought with a shrug. I wasn't their babysitter. If they were living here, they should know it was dangerous to go out at night, especially with all the shit going on. I sprinted to the alley. Maybe I could still find the trail of that PCM guy, then a dead end. What I thought was a passageway was just a small nook, about 10 feet from the sidewalk to the side of the building. I held my phone up, lighting as much of the area as I could. 3 solid walls. No doors. It can't be seriously. How about the PCM guy? He just poofed in the air. And did the ground just spit out those children? Come on, there had to be a way out of here. A hidden door of some kind. It might even lead me to the PCM hideout. I resumed my search, but I was interrupted by a bright light. Someone shone a flashlight on me. I held up my arm to shield my eyes. I squinted at the person blocking my way out of this corner. I didn't respond. Just a human, I mentally scoffed. Yeah, I hadn't forgotten about his gun. Big deal. You gave me trouble looking for your little ass, he spat at me. How about I try to get info from this guy? Not sure if he knew anything useful. It would have been better if I questioned the guy with the beanie. Speak of the devil. Harper. You idiot, what are you doing here? It was Beanie Guy, yay. We already found the SVS. That girl is not one of them. Why are you still chasing her? Look at this shit. He pointed at his head. It was wrapped in a bloody PCM bandana. She's gotta pay for this. Wah. But that's not her fault, Beanie Guy said, speaking my thoughts. That was the. Beanie Guy grabbed his arm. Leave her alone. She has no part in this. We have to go. The others. Well, what are you going to do with her? Just going to have a bit of fun with her. No police round these parts, perfect time to have some fun while teaching her a lesson. You can't do that. I can and I will. I'll make her regret messing with me. But she didn't. Are you out of your mind? We're not going back in because of this. Hands where I can see them. I don't want any trouble between us, man. Just walk away. You ain't seen nothing here. Don't want trouble. Don't be here. I can't let you do this. You should. Don't forget you owe me. You know what you should forget? Forget about me and this girl. Not worth your trouble. Harper turned his attention back to me. Now, how about you show me your pretty face? Take off your mask. Roddy's expression was conflicted. Guess he wasn't hero material. Roddy. I cried out. Help me. I couldn't resist messing with them. Calling him with his name gave him a bit more bravado that he stepped forward. I don't have anything you want, I added for good measure. Just leave me alone. I am going to the police will arrest you. Roddy, you can't let him do this to me. Please. Harper, you shouldn't. I crouched down hugging my body, acting like I was paralyzed by fear. Please no, I couldn't do a proper sobbing session because I was too excited to try out something. And no, I'm not going to kick his balls, although that did enter my mind. Scrambled eggs, he don't laugh. Why do I have to do everything myself? Harper approached me, his hand reaching to grab my head. Yes. It was the opportunity one was waiting for, the opportunity to test out sweeping legs and putting enemies off balance. I crouched down to make sweeping easier since I wasn't sure I could do a proper standing leg sweep. I extended my right leg, aiming for his right ankle just as his stepping foot was about to touch the ground, kicking out as fast and with as much power as I could, sweeping his back leg as well. Harper did a violent half pinwheel in the air, his feet going high up, his head down, his arms flailing. It was like a comedic sketch of a cartoon character exaggeratedly slipping on a banana peel. His head smashed against the ground, stopping his rotation, followed by a nasty crunch as the rest of his body crumpled in a heap on top of his head. Me and Roddy stared at the unmoving body. He shone his flashlight on his fellow PCM member. A dark pool of what I assumed to be blood was slowly spreading. Oops. I didn't mean to do that. Squishy. Yep, that was what came to mind when it came to normal humans. Squishy bags of flesh. Easy to pop like zits. The only other time I had hit normal humans as super-strengthened errand was right after I escaped the explosion in the EVE Underground arena, when I ran into a couple of 2M goons in the tunnels. I couldn't recall much of it because I was reeling from the explosion and severely injured, other than I desperately punched those two. Until they died and continued some more even after they were dead. Oh. I also elbowed the jerk who dared put his hand around my waist at the club. That made it 2 previous times. While I knew how squishy normal humans were, I never realized they were also so crunchy. A satisfying crunch too, like cracking knuckles. I'm sorry, I cried out, coupled with the standard hands covering the mouth in abject horror. Is that blue? He was going to attack me. You saw it. I scampered to the back wall, pressing myself against it while hugging myself. Damsel in distress face was on autopilot, no need for higher brain functions because the correct, normal, reaction was obvious. I was preoccupied with wondering why I underestimated my force by a mile. It reminded of the times I picked up a bottle of water thinking it was full but was actually empty, ending up with nearly throwing it because I used way too much strength. Was I getting stronger? Harper. Roddy whispered, his voice wavering in disbelief. The hell, man? Is he dead? I don't know, I'm really sorry. It was his fault. Crunchy Harper, the sounds of his body breaking replaying in my head like an ad of a fast food place exaggerating the crispiness of the skin of their fried chicken. Roddy knelt beside the probably dead guy. Harper, he repeated, shaking him, which might not be advisable. The fleshy heap that was his friend, I don't actually know if they were friends, just slumped down some more. Shit, what do I do? Calling an ambulance was a good idea, but with the state of this area, I wasn't sure if any would come here. He could also try bringing Harper to the hospital since we were near one. I was hoping to learn something for when I'd be confronted with a similar scenario someday and had to modify my face to care about someone dying. He checked Harper's pulse. Probably finding nothing, he lowered himself down to Harper's head, putting his ear next to the mouth that was leaking blood, checking for breathing. I was just sobbing at the side, pretending to be paralyzed by fear. My original plan was to practice knocking down the perverted twig Harper and then run away. Roddy wouldn't block me, I was positive of that based on how he acted. With me gone, Roddy would drag Harper along and rejoin their PCM group hunting the SVS, then I'd just follow them. Clean. No torturing involved. And they'd forget about me. But now, what do I do? I couldn't beat this Roddy guy up for information even if he was a PCM member and technically the enemy of my Blanchette face. After all, he did try to stop Harper from assaulting me. It was another matter if he became a threat. Roddy tried to arrange Harper's horribly entangled body into a better position, pulling his legs out and straightening it. It became easier to see Harper's neck was crooked like a bendy straw. Nasty. No need for a doctor to declare this guy dead. Maybe I should just get going and find someone else. I slowly inched around them. Hold it, Roddy whispered. What? He reached for Harper's gun. I tensed up, ready to kick his head off. But he didn't point it at me. Harper, he's dead. He slowly stood up and faced me with a deranged look. I figured as much. Indignant mode on. Are you going to blame me for that? You saw it. He was. Our leader told us there are many Adumbri lurking in this city. What has that got to do? Wait, are you accusing me of being one? These PCM nut jobs, seriously. Why, I can't believe it. You guys try to assault me, and now you say I'm the Adumbri. You assholes are the one who are monsters. I yelled, pointing a finger at him. I'm having too much fun with this. His legs, Roddy said. They are broken. He fell, that's why. Smashed, the bones of his legs are smashed. Ankles bent the wrong way. It's like a sledgehammer hit his legs. He didn't fall for my bait accusing him along with Harper. I don't know anything about that. I'm just trying to go home when you guys attacked me. This is all wrong. His hand holding the gun was shaking by his hip. I was going to hit him if he raised it higher than that. I wasn't sure if I was fast enough to evade a gun aimed right at me. He said, I'm already going to say sorry if I'm wrong, but can I shoot you? What? No. Why are you going to do that? I need to check if you're an Adumbri. You're insane, I gasped, edging closer to the sidewalk. He seriously was. Don't move. I'll do it, okay? He was speaking rapidly, his breathing becoming agitated. I'll shoot you. Just your leg. If you regenerate, that means you're an Adumbri. Then I'm going to blow your head off. I'm not an Adumbri. If you don't heal, I'll call an ambulance. Yeah, that's right. Don't worry, miss. I can also get my car and bring you and Harper to the hospital. His shivering hand was slowly raising. That's right. This is the right thing to do, he said, more to convince himself. Just let me shoot you. What's wrong with this guy? I could just run. A light bulb lit up inside my head. I raised both my hands as a sign of surrender. You got me, I said. Huh? I said you got me. I shrugged. I'm an Adumbri. His brows furrowed, still not quite understanding what was going on. You are. A wide smile formed on his face, his eyes brightened. Mr. Cohen was right. We're not crazy. Adumbri are really among us. Just as fast as his confusion turned into happiness, happiness turned to intense hatred. Die, you Adam. Roddy was about to yell, but I clamped his mouth tight. His other hand dove into his jacket. I grabbed it, recalling he also had his own gun, and crashed his forearm bones. He whimpered. The gun fell to the floor. His pained face contorted in anger. Now, I said, dropping him on top of Harper's body. Where's the SVS? You're going to help them, he said, his words punctuated by groans. Mr. Cohen is really right. Many didn't believe him when he said that you Adumbri bastards are here and you're in league with that trash SVS. Tell me where. You're not getting no shit out of me, he interjected. I'm not giving in to you like you seduced Harper AH. I stepped on his ankle. I didn't do anything to your perverted friend, I snapped, besides accidentally killing him. Was this torture? Perhaps. He did point a gun at me. And, unfortunately for him, he was witnessing the debut of my villain face. Such a stroke of genius to transform the timid girl face into a hidden Adumbri persona. Well, it was also the truth, but also a face. Either you tell me or. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not afraid of dying. Finally, something worth fighting for. I'm not giving in to an Adumbri. He kept rambling on, his words bunching together, his mouth starting to foam. His crazed eyes were bloodshot, almost popping out of his head. And it seemed like he no longer felt the pain of his injuries. What the hell was going on? It was seriously starting to get weird. He wasn't crazy like this earlier. Were normal people this weird all along? And how do I torture information out a guy in this state? Was there a guide on the internet for this? Kill me. Kill me. I believe this guy really wasn't afraid of what I could do to him. The fact I was an Adumbri actually gave him courage. Okay, I had to admit things were not going great for my villain debut. Embarrassing really. Kill me. Do it, UADUM. Too loud. I grabbed his shoulder, holding him in place. Then my right hand flew across his face. His head violently snapped to the left that I was concerned I killed him. I just wanted to put him to sleep. He spat out blood and a few of his teeth. Still awake. I slapped him once more, aiming for the side of his chin. This part of the jaw was supposed to be a knockout spot, knowledge courtesy of random internet videos. The lower half of his face just shifted left. I jerked back and released him, shocked at the sight. Oh my god, I didn't mean to. Hang on, I felt like I had already said this. Roddy was twitching on the ground. His fingers curled, followed by his arms getting rigid while still shaking horribly. Tears poured from his eyes mixed with the blood from his nose and mouth. Poor guy, maybe I should just kill Na. While he did try to kill me, he was a nice guy before that, so he gets to keep his life. This really isn't going well. I sighed, shaking my head. Why was I having trouble controlling my strength? There was no problem if I was doing normal human stuff, but when I tried to exert superhuman strength, I was overshooting it. It must be connected with my practice with Myra. I was getting out of sync estimating my strength. Not only did I need to practice going past the limits of my strength, I also needed to relearn calibrating my super strength. Oh, well. So what should I do with these two? I could just leave them here. They didn't know who I was, and neither did I leave any traces. What was that? A ringtone. It wasn't my phone. I rummaged through the pockets of Roddy and finally found his phone. I used his bent fingers to unlock the screen, trying each to find the correct one. I didn't pay any attention to him having a seizure beside me while I scrolled through his messages. The PCM was giving orders to its members where to gather. They apparently cornered the SVS who were trying to do an Adumbri summoning ritual, whatever that was supposed to be, inside a warehouse. Warehouse of Dawson Stevedoring and Logistics, LLC, I read. I don't know where that is. But it wasn't a problem because there was a tracking feature on Snippet so the PCM members could see each other in this area. I opened up the map on Snippet and found the pinned location of the warehouse. Dean was right, these social media apps had plenty of handy features. The warehouse wasn't that far, but I still might be too late to help. I could run maybe 2 or 3 times faster than a normal human, but everyone along the way would see me. Unless I ripped Harper's PCM bandana off his arm before jumping as high up on the wall as I could. My fingers easily sunk into the bricks. Then I pulled myself up, kicking off in tandem and jumping to the opposite side. A couple more leaps and I was on the roof. I took one last look at Roddy and dead Harper below before dashing to the warehouse. I jumped over a small street, landing on the next row of buildings. This was so much faster than weaving through the streets. No one was looking up. And even if they did, they couldn't see me anyway, camouflaged against the cloudy sky with my dark clothes like a reverse penguin. I miss watching the Animal Channel. Who knows, I might get to witness more interesting animal behaviors at the warehouse. I couldn't help but grin as I zipped across rooftops, the sides of my hood flapping against my head, the cold night embracing me. It was like a dream, sprinting with superhuman speed, leaping from one building to the next a couple of dozen feet away. Almost flying. I'd only done this before when Myra and I ran away from Bob. But this was more satisfying, probably because there was no unkillable Adumbri chasing after me. I thought, giggling while yet again increasing my speed. Nearing the location, I noticed more and more people running on the streets below. I tied Harper's bandana on my arm to fit in, then dropped down the gap between two buildings, narrowly missing an open dumpster that I didn't notice in the darkness. Phew, if I fell into the trash, I can say goodbye to all my snooping plans. I jogged to the street, seamlessly joining a small crowd of people. Most of the streetlights were still functioning in this area because we were a bit of a distance from Marshall Avenue, so I had a better look of the people around me. Although the PCM yellow was predominant among us, there were other splashes of color and symbols, indicating that other groups were coming under the PCM's banner. We entered a compound, the gate and the small guardhouse beside it already destroyed, and headed to one of the warehouses. It was the same size as the one at the docks where Roferio put me and Romello. I really should get out of this crowd before I kill someone. I waded through the throng of modern-day witch hunters, Adumbri hunters to be more accurate, misguided and misinformed Adumbri hunters, easily squeezing myself past them. Most people probably didn't notice who forcefully shoved them aside. The irony that me, an Adumbri, was in the middle of their group, joining them in their hunt, wasn't lost on me. Very amusing. I climbed up the hood of a delivery truck to have a better view of what was happening. They were trying to open the doors of the warehouse, seemingly closed from the inside with chains or something. A group of men were holding it as far apart as they could while inserting a circular saw through the gap. Sparks flew while the crowd held their phones up like we were in a concert. Someone with a megaphone was giving out instructions, trying to make himself heard over the din. Are inside. We've sent out pictures so you know who to look for. Find them. Don't let them escape. Pictures. I said, checking Roddy's phone. Sure enough, the faces of the SVS members were shared on Snippet. Regina's picture was first, followed by other people I didn't recognize. They were likely in the SVS vid, but I just didn't bother to remember them. Next, huh? I came across a picture I did recognize. Romello? You're with the SVS. It's got to be here somewhere, Romello Staton panted as he pried open another crate with a crowbar, chips of wood flying off. Before beginning his search, he pulled up the lower half of the balaclava mask he wore to wipe away beads of sweat dangerously close to his eyes. Another crate full of canned foods. Same as the last 6. He clicked his tongue, annoyed at the lack of progress. Should he just search elsewhere? But this time, it could be different. There might be something covered by all of these cans. He dug through them, anxiously trying to find. What are we even looking for? Cried out the robust man calling himself Devon, a devoted worshipper of the High Overseer Devolution, as was apparent from his chosen alias. The hockey mask hiding his identity muffled his voice. Baked beans, corned beef, chowder, he said, shaking cans after reading their labels. And what the hell is this? Asparagus. I am not sure, Romello replied, embarrassed with his answer. Anything suspicious. We'll know when we see it. Look for anything suspicious, snorted the stocky woman rummaging the shelves beside him. That's not very helpful. Is this can of extra-long asparagus spears suspicious? Devon asked sarcastically. Chemicals, vials, canisters, anything weird, said Mercator, the one who accompanied Reginus in their earlier meeting. The well-dressed man had tied his coat around his waist and loosened his tie, his dress shirt drenched in sweat, the amulets around his neck swinging wildly as he pushed down a stack of boxes so he could begin searching them. I know it's quite a tall order to look for something we don't know, but Ram's right. It should look suspicious, whatever it is. Yeah, just hunker down and continue searching, guys, Reginus huffed. Sent said the trucks that go to the hospital get their packages from this warehouse. That's what shows up in their database, Sent, the resident computer expert replied. He was still in the stolen company uniform he used to sneak in the office of this compound. Sorry guys, I didn't find any other details. Devon shook his head. This is hopeless, damn it. He's right, this is going nowhere. Romello kicked over the crate in front of him, frustrated at the seemingly dead end. Cans rolled across the floor. It's got to be here, he murmured. He jammed the crowbar beneath the lid of the next crate in line and pushed it down. It's got to be here. It should be. Something had to be here. The face of the Adumbry called, Red Hood. Salty smell of the air. And Dawson. Those were the only three things Romello recalled. Nothing else. From the last memory of accompanying Aaron on the train to when he woke up at the hospital, everything in between was a huge black hole except for those three tiny pieces of memory. At first, he thought he only imagined the face with the scary snout-like mask, some kind of bizarre dream. But after seeing Regina's video of the incident at Serenade Bazaar, he realized he had met an actual Adumbry. She was there when he was beaten up. As a friend or foe, he didn't know. He did tell Reginus that Red Hood saved him, but he only said that to gain their trust. He wasn't so sure if that was what actually happened. Red Hood attacked Uncle Jerry and Casten. She might be an enemy after all. The distinct salty smell told him he was brought somewhere near the ocean. He hadn't been to the beach for some time, so there was no other explanation for the memory of the strong scent of saltwater suddenly popping up in his head. And lastly, the word Dawson. He didn't personally know any Dawson. Could it be the name of one of his attackers? A clue as to their identity? He told the police about the name, but they ignored him, obviously stalling the investigation. His uncle couldn't easily step in because it was the jurisdiction of another precinct. Just looking for a person with such a relatively common name was going nowhere. For all he knew, it could be just a nickname, or he could have even misheard it. A sheer stroke of luck struck him. While watching the live news broadcast of the protests at EFU Medical Center, a truck with a logo containing the word Dawson passed by the camera. One glance at the logo on the side of the truck and it jogged a small part of his memory. That was it. He had seen this logo before. Dawson wasn't the name of a person. It was a company. Dawson Stevedoring and Logistics, LLC was its full name, as he found out after some research. This company had to be connected to the Mark and Mark organization. He must have seen it somewhere when he was kidnapped and beaten. Why else did his brain desperately remember the name even if he could barely recall anything else the day he was attacked? Romello's theory was confirmed by his uncle indirectly. Uncle Jerry, or Lieutenant Jeremiah Hall, as the seasoned detective insisted to be called if they were in front of other cops, was still in a coma at the hospital. Using the pretext of cleaning his uncle's house, checking the mail, the fridge for any rotting leftovers, any unplugged appliances, he took the opportunity to search for information related to the Dawson Company. Although he couldn't get into his uncle's computer, there were plenty of notes strewn on his uncle's work desk that outlined possible front companies of Mark and Mark, one of which was the Dawson Company. The smell of saltwater made sense. Stevedoring being one of the services offered by the Dawson Company, it was bound to have warehouses by the docks. He must have been brought to the docks, and thus near the ocean, when he was taken. He also read his uncle's suspicion about the mayor possibly protecting the criminals in the city. It wasn't hard to put two and two together. There had to be something sinister going on. And Reginus and the rest of the SVS agreed with him when he shared the results of his investigation. They trooped to the hospital after their meeting to stake it out. They didn't have to wait for long for a Dawson truck to arrive. It was escorted by the police to be able to get through the lines of protesters. Everything reeked of a conspiracy. That was when they decided to follow the truck to the Dawson warehouses to find out what was being delivered to the hospital. For sure nothing good. And they were going to expose it to the public. This is hopeless, complained one of the SVS members after another half an hour of fruitless searching. Others agreed with him. It's going to take ages to search this whole place. What if it's in another warehouse? Or what if it's inside these cans? Devon said. He placed the can on the floor and jammed his crowbar down on it. Red liquid spurted out, splashing on them. "Watch it," exclaimed Reginus. Romello wiped off some of the liquid off his arm and brought it up to his nose. Tomatoey. It was just meatball sauce. But Devon was right. Whatever they were looking for could be hidden in cans or in toasters, books, basketball balls. The possibilities were endless. Uncle Jerry had shared with him the disingenuous ways smugglers hid drugs to get them through customs. If dangerous chemicals were brought to the hospital, it wouldn't be in obvious containers. "Stop playing around," Reginus snapped. "We're not going to find it if we waste time like this. We don't know what we're looking for. We don't know if it's even here. Obviously, it's not going to be hidden in plain sight. We can't spend hours searching this warehouse," countered Devon. "This place is huge. And we got those PCM bastards on our tail. We still don't know why they decided to go after us now." "I can think of plenty of reasons," Mercator said. "Everyone, just shut up," Reginus yelled. "Continue search Devon, where are you going?" "I'm going to ask the guys at the back if they know anything," he replied, referring to the guard and 3 Dawson employees they tied up in a small office room. "They already said they don't know." "Bullshit. They should know if something fishy's up. They work here." "Don't bother," Mercator said, sighing. "Even if they know anything illegal going on, why would they tell us?" Devon patted his palm with the curved end of his crowbar. "This is why." Then he sprinted away. Stressed, anxious, and tired, they all stared at each other for several seconds, processing what Devon meant by that. Reginus interrupted the concerning silence. Is he?" she said, with a brow raised. Romello exclaimed with a start, "We need to stop him." He rushed after Devon, beckoning the others to follow him. He didn't need to be a law student to know he had broken, and was still breaking, many laws. It was his plan to break into the Dawson compound and tie up the employees, and now they were ransacking private property. But what could he do? Go to the police? The police would just ignore him if he reported this. And he didn't have enough evidence. More likely, he'd get beaten up again, or worse, killed, once those bastard criminals knew how close he was to uncovering their plot, which he still didn't have a complete picture of. Taking the law into one's own hands was illegal. That was why there were laws in place to stop society from descending into chaos if everyone just did what they think was right. But I am right if he stood aside, another incident like the one that happened to Aaron's condo was going to happen again. It'd be on his conscience if a lot of people died because he let it happen. And while he was sure he was right, he also knew lines had to be drawn. What Devon was going to do was certainly crossing it. "Devon!" Romello called out. A yelp of pain and a crash. He spotted Devon through the windows of the small office at the end of the warehouse. The man with the hockey mask used the crowbar to hit someone on the ground, out of his view. "Where is it?" Devon roared. "I'm going to break your bones if you don't answer me. Are you out of your mind? Stop that. Please, it hurts, I don't know." "The hell you don't." Devon raised his crowbar, but Romello barged into the office just in time to grab it. "Let go. This whole gig was your idea." "Yes, but we never agreed to do this," Romello spat out as he wrestled the crowbar away from the unhinged SVS member. "Well, what have you done here?" he said as he looked around. The bound security guard was lying on the floor, unconscious with a gash on his forehead. The male warehouse worker was twitching beside the guard, his leg injured by Devon. The last 2 female employees tried to hide behind the desk, squiggling their best across the floor despite the ropes tying their hands and feet. "What the hell am I doing here?" Romello thought in horror as a moment of clarity grazed his mind. "Dev! Ram!" Reginus shouted. She and Mercator entered the office, stopping in their tracks upon seeing Devon's handiwork. The other SVS members also followed them, standing outside the window. "Wah! We have to get them to the hospital. Someone call an ambulance. But then we have to stop searching, Mercator said. I know. But look, they're hurt bad. She knelt beside the bleeding security guard, taking out her cell phone and dialing numbers. We can't just leave them like that. The police will arrest us. Mercator grabbed Regina's phone, then glanced at Romello, hoping he would step in. Romello stammered. What do we do? Should they just give up now? If they stopped now, Mark and Mark would know for sure they were on to them and hide their operations. I think we. Reg. The three members tasked with searching the front part of the warehouse, and also to guard the entrance, came running towards them. Reg, here you are. We were looking for you. We've got a problem. The PCM. They found us? Yeah. They're gathering outside. There's a lot of them. I don't know how they found us here. Why did you leave your post? Reginus demanded, her hands on her hips. You're supposed to guard. Do you want us to die? Those PCM assholes are out for our blood. And it's not like we just left, replied another. We secured the doors with heavy chains and padlocks. Then we stacked as many crates as we could to block it. But they'll soon break through. Can you hear it? One said, holding a finger to keep everyone quiet. There. The buzzing. They're cutting through the chains and forcing their way in. Shit, we got to run, Devon said, pulling his arm out of Romello's grip. This place got a back door or something. Hey, you. He pointed at the Dawson employee he hit with a crowbar. Where can we escape? Yes, we have a back door. Don't hurt me. He told them how to get to it. Go. Go. Devon yelled, leading the SVS members to the back exit. Reginus looked down at the injured Dawson employees. What about these? Just leave them. Mercator said, pushing her to follow the others. Come, Ram. We can't stay here. We don't know what the PCM will do to us. Romello balled his fist, digging his nails into his palm. Damn it. Did he really have no choice but to give up? His jaws were clenched, seething in anger, as he brought up the tail of their fleeing group. He lagged behind, still thinking whether he could hide in the warehouse and then continue searching after the PCM members had left. They would go after the SVS while he'd be free to continue his search. This was his only opportunity to find evidence. After this, they'd. They're here. They have the place surrounded. Run back inside. Find a place to hide. What's going on? Romello blurted out. He turned to his left just in time to see a 2x4 heading straight for his face. And everything went black. Ugh, what? Romello groggily asked after a splash of cold water hit him. He shook his face to dry himself and found his mouth was stiff with something. He hissed in pain as he scrunched his nose to try to dislodge it. He couldn't. And he just made his entire face hurt. He reached for it with his tongue, and from the taste found out it was dried blood caking his mouth. His arms were tied behind his back so he couldn't wipe it off. And another one wakes up, someone with a megaphone said. What's going on? He mumbled. Even speaking was painful. All the SVS members were bound and thrown in the middle of a large circle of people. There must have been more than 50 people surrounding them. Not just PCM members, but also those from other organizations based on the symbols they wore. Romello was aware of these more radical groups because he encountered them recruiting members from the more problematic communities of the city where his foundation was having advocacy programs. Back then, he thought it was funny how fast gangs were being replaced by these groups over the past couple of months. It wasn't funny now that they were here. The crowd, no, the mob, was armed with bats, spiked pieces of wood, clubs, chains. They only lacked pitchforks and they'd be a proper lynching mob. And instead of torches, they had cell phones to light up the night. How did they find us? Regina said. Ah, my wrists hurt. A traitor, Devon said, spitting blood on the ground. What else? There's no traitor among us, Reginus fiercely said. I'm sure of it. My rituals made sure of. Now is not the time to fight amongst yourselves. The man with the megaphone stepped out of the crowd. Now is the time for your trial, judgment and execution. The crowd cheered, waving their lit phones, clanging their crude weapons. Romello's heart raced as he faced impending death. A way out. There has to be a way out. He scanned the vicious throng, looking for an opening. And then he met someone's eyes. Those eyes. He knew those eyes. He could never forget it, for it was one of the memories he recalled from the day he was attacked. Red Hood was among the crowd, staring right at him. You are accused of being Adumbry sympathizers. Of being enemies of the good and honest people of our beautiful city. Of being traitors to humanity. Megaphone Man's amplified voice could barely fight the racket of the crowd jeering and hurling insults at the SVS group. And now, we can add summoning an Adumbry to the list of your crimes, declared Megaphone Man. Just kill them already, yelled the guy to my right, waving his phone in the air like he was in a concert. Sir, please. Move your sweaty armpits away. If those touched me, I was going to rip his arms off and jam them down his throat. This guy was wearing a tank top with dropped armholes like douchebags at the gym. How was he not feeling cold? They're all guilty. No need for this trial. There are a lot more people here than I expected. I was hemmed in once again by the pack. I had no choice but to wade through the crowd if I wanted to see what was going on. I thought they were supposed to be at the memorial for the victims of the Adumbry attacks. Weren't they supposed to protest against the mayor? Everyone was so engrossed with their little modern-day witch hunt that they didn't notice me standing in their midst, suspiciously not joining in their festivities. And I already appeared super sketchy even though I did my best to disguise myself. Before I transformed, I took off my hoodie so it wouldn't get teleported to whatever dimension my original body poofed off to. Then I put it back on after becoming Blanchette to hide my distinct red clothes and trademarked animal ears on top of my hood. It was uncomfortably tight, especially around my chest, not only because I was wearing it on top of another hoodie, but because it was also a couple of sizes too small. This is all Dean's fault. I wanted to buy an oversized one when we shopped to make me appear nerdier and smaller, hence contributing to my timid persona. Plus, I could also use it as Blanchette, which was why I chose a generic design so it'd be inconspicuous and hard to trace if someone saw me. Unfortunately, because I picked, in Dean's own words, horrendously bland hoodie, she insisted I should, at the very least, buy the correct size. So, here I was in a very fitting hoodie. Guys could pull off this look. Everett occasionally wore tight hoodies to show off his muscles to Dean, but it just looked unfashionable for girls, especially on me as Blanchette, who was a bit on the top-heavy side. And to hide my very noticeable snout, I tore several strips off a rugged tarp covering the back of a truck, fashioning it into some sort of scarf. My makeshift scarf reeked of grease and gasoline. I dearly wished for the smell of gasoline to be stronger to mask the odor of the sweaty cell phone waving PCM guy beside me. To have a fair trial, since we are civilized people, blared Megaphone Man, we need to prove the accusations before meting out penalties. For that, we call our first witness. The crowd cheered as he beckoned for someone to come forward. A witness of the evil deeds of the SVS. A couple of PCM members helped a limping man walk to the center of the circle. The people shone the lights of their cell phones on him like a spotlight. He wore a uniform of some kind with a logo, the same design I saw on the toppled gate of the compound. An employee working in these warehouses was my guess. Silence. Silence. Let us hear him speak, said Megaphone Man. Good sir, did you witness these people perform a ritual inside the warehouse? The warehouse worker was in a daze and pain, probably thinking everything around him was just a fevered dream. He hesitated before speaking on the megaphone. Ritual? Ugh, I don't know. Did these people tie you up? Yes, me and 3 others. Did they hurt you? Yes, they hit me on the leg. What other crimes did they commit? They also hit Morris, he's the guard, on the head. Oh my, these accursed people are out of control. Anything else to add, my good sir? Morris, he's unconscious. I think he needs an ambulance. My leg is busted. You told me you'll bring us to the hospital if. And there you have it, people. Megaphone man interjected, waving the warehouse worker away. The SVS bound 4 people and beat them as part of their ritual to summon an Adumbri inside that warehouse. They are the reason why there are many Adumbri in our city. We were not doing anything like that. Regina shouted. She tried her best to stand up with bound feet. That's a lie. The blood of the many, many innocents who died are on their hands. They are pure evil, and evil must be purged from our city to return to. You got it all wrong. Stop making this all up. Silence. Megaphone man strode over to Reginus and slapped her face. She fell on top of other SVS members. The crowd roared its approval. Reginus continued to argue, so Megaphone man kicked her. Silence. Order in the court. Order. He stooped down to hit her with his megaphone, quite a move befitting his moniker I made up. One of the SVS guys put himself in front of her to shield her from the blows. Huh? Is that? I thought the heroic dude who came to Reginus' aid was a member of her little club, but it turned out he wasn't. It was Romello. Oh yeah, the PCM had him on their mini-wanted list. I should have expected this, but I was surprised he was here. What the hell was his connection to all of this? Did he join them? I racked my brains but couldn't come up with an explanation. I knew he wasn't one to sit back while his attackers roamed free, and he did tell me he was going after them. In his investigations, he must have somehow stumbled across the SVS. But how that came about to be, I had no idea. Romello was also talking back to Megaphone Man, but I couldn't pick out what he said. When transformed, hearing was included in my enhanced senses. Although I could now hear a lot of stuff I couldn't before, I didn't have much practice filtering out all the noise and focusing on specific ones. My head just hurt from all the yelling, every sound just sort of rolling into one drone. We don't care about the words of Adumbri sympathizers. Megaphone Man replied. You don't have a right to defend yourselves. I could guess what Romello said. Typical law student trying to invoke his rights that'd just lead to escalating a situation rather than defusing it. It earned him a megaphone smash to the face. Awesome, now I have the justification to intervene. More alleged witnesses were brought in to testify, a couple of female employees. With a bit of time before the PCM ended this sham court and definitely execute the SVS people, I observed the crowd I would be going up against. Some of them were dressed even weirder than me, with all sorts of masks and costumes. They were mostly armed with baseball bats, hockey sticks, crowbars, chains, just random weapons. I knew several of them had guns, but there was no fun in just shooting to kill someone. If their goal was to make a spectacle and raise the morale of their group by hunting their enemy, then no better way than to beat someone to death. I couldn't let them do that to Romello. If it was just the SVS, I wasn't sure I'd save them in this situation. Yeah, they were making my Blanchette face look good to the public, so I figured I could help them if it was just a few guys bothering them. Maybe like beat up some PCM people so they could run away. But this? I'd needed to rip through like 50 people for their sake. If these were all goons of the 2MS, I'd have no issue, but these were just normal kinda people. It wasn't a conscience thing, I didn't even know how that shit worked. It was doing too much that might break rule number 4. Unbalancing the world and the like. Killing tons of 2M grunts was fine because we were enemies. These people, however, were just going about their business doing normal people stuff with barely any connection to me. Sure, they'd be breaking the law by lynching SVS members, but that was a natural progression of their irrational fear of the Adumbri. Just desperate people doing desperate things. Like how the camera crew of the Animal Channel I loved dearly as a child didn't intervene when a cute baby seal was eaten by a polar bear, I also wouldn't bother the world more than I needed to the upper limit of rule number 4. In fact, the Animal Channel was as much of an influence in establishing rule number 4 as the wise words of my father. Invoking self-defense on behalf of Reginus and her gang was on shaky ground. I wasn't sure I could justify it with the rules. Saving Romello on the other hand? Very justified. He's my friend after all. Straining my ears, I heard Romello invoking their constitutional right to counsel. Why was he trying to talk legalities with this bunch of insane mooks? This wasn't going to end well. Lawyer? Megaphone Man said. You're saying you want a lawyer for due process? What do the people say? The crowd booed him. Megaphone Man shook his head. People, we are a court of law, of fairness. We should give them a chance. And no, you're not going to defend yourself. I don't care if you're a law student, kid. We will get you professional help since you wanted fairness. Come here, Marty. A man wearing a murderer clown mask, probably bought from a Dollar General store with a discount on Halloween items since it was already February, hesitantly stepped forward, confused why he was called. The mob roared in laughter. Marty, the court appoints you as the lawyer for the accused. Any words before the court deliberate on the evidence presented? Okay, I must admit this is pretty funny. They were going to make their judgment soon. If only the wheels of justice moved this fast in actuality, but this was more like wheels of injustice. Time to make my move. How should? Okay, we have a volunteer. I snarled as I grabbed his arm, savoring the satisfying crunch of his brittle bones. He screamed in surprise and pain. I violently swung Armpit Guy around like a crocodile trying to tear its prey apart. People around us fell like bowling pins. I dug my claws into his chest, hooking his ribs. Blood spurted out of his mouth as he continued screaming. With a firm grip on his torso, I tore his arm away. ARGRGHKK help. Too noisy. I buried his arm down his mouth to shut him up. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Story of my life so far tonight. It would have been better if he continued screaming to spread panic. I planned to rapidly strike fear into the hearts of these people so they'd run away rather than fight me. I was positive I had no problems dealing with them, but an unlucky bullet from several guns shooting at the same time might stop me. And I also didn't want Romello and the SVS to get injured in a crossfire. I hurled the lifeless body of Armpit Guy at Megaphone Man. He yelped in surprise and fell, struggling to disentangle himself from the mangled corpse. Marty the Clown exclaimed curses into the megaphone before dropping it in shock. Piercing feedback reverberated. That got the attention of the mob. The people around me were frozen in place, stunned by being bathed in the blood of their friend. I removed my scarf and bared my fangs at them, snapping my jaws, growling to scare them. They screamed and scrambled to get away. Nice. Now then, I'd have less work. Adumbri. Adumbri. Megaphone Man frantically shouted, having found his trusty megaphone. The SVS really summoned an Adumbri. Attack. Kill that Adumbri. The fleeing people stopped and then turned back to me. A man suddenly tackled me. I was surprised but didn't budge. I opened my mouth wide and bit his head that was buried between my boobs. Sir, no indecent behavior please, I thought as I closed my jaws. His head easily burst, blood and bits of brain splattering me in the rest of the crowd coming for me. They threw themselves at me with no hesitation. Stabbing me with knives, clobbering me with bats, a giant wave of squishy humans trying to bury me with their weight. Giro. A sweep of my claws and heads parted from their bodies. Another slash ripped open the chests of 3 people, their guts flying in the air. My punch smashed right through a man's skull. I drove my foot into one guy's stomach to kick him away, but I put too much strength that my foot just went through him. I flailed my leg in frustration, trying to fling the body away. Kill. Kill the Adumbri, the SVS summoned. Don't be afraid. The Mother Core is with us. Kill. 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 Chanted the mob. They threw chains at me. I yanked them and whirled the chains around, smashing all the bodies it came into contact with. But they were relentless. Some managed to duck under the lashing chains and charged at me, others latched on the chains weighing it down, making me lose its momentum. I was dumbfounded by their insanity. Many were closing in on me again. I abandoned the chains and returned to my good old claws. Jirio. Kill. Kill. Don't fear death. All Adumbri must die no matter the cost. So soft, everyone was so soft. One diagonal slash and my claws went through the bodies of 4 people. 2 heads, a torso, and legs. No fighting style, no thought, just madly swiping everyone who came near. I was like a kid doing the helicopter punch strategy during recess fights. What the hell is this? Confusion swirled in my head as I ripped through dozens of people, snuffing out their lives with barely any effort, as anticlimactic as it got. They couldn't injure me enough to trigger my feral craving. Werewolf Blanchette stayed silent inside me. All this carnage and I didn't feel any bloodlust at all. Boredom, yes. Astonishment at the craziness happening, I was in the middle of it but still couldn't believe it. Also annoyance at the blood soaking into my clothes. I have to throw away this hoodie, sorry Dean. Shoot her. We might hit. Fire. Fire. I don't care about the others. From the chaotic cacophony, my ears pricked at the mention of shooting. I grabbed the people nearest me, a girl with a painted face and a guy wearing a bandana across his mouth. Pops of gunfire. I held the bodies up as shields, not knowing where the shooting was coming from. Many people dropped. I felt hot pain in my left leg. Anger bubbled up from deep within me, a surprising emotion from the eerie lull. Where's the prey that hit me? I needed to consume their flesh, eat them to heal myself. Eat them because they hurt me. Sane Aaron fought back. If I ate them, I might spiral out of control. Turning into a giant werewolf in the middle of the city was the last thing I wanted to do. And I had a mission here. I concentrated on my hearing while sending bodies flying. SVS are escaping. Catch them. Shoot them. They summoned an Adumbri. I cut through the crowd, looking for Romello and the SVS, ignoring the weak humans trying to bludgeon me. They were no threat. Just a minor annoyance. The SVS was fighting their own battle. Romello somehow managed to free himself and was untying the others while fending off the mob. I chucked body parts at people with guns to help out. Hey, I'm getting good at this throwing thing. Run. Romello said while he fought with a PCM member for his hockey stick. He managed to win and waved the stick around to drive back the others. Run. I'll hold them. Oh, come on. Don't do that heroic shit. I was supposed to save him, and now he was staying behind. I clambered over a couple of people, stepped on their heads, and jumped over the crowd towards Romello. His eyes widened as I landed in front of him. I must have presented a grisly sight having bathed buckets of blood and innards. You. I remember you, he said, raising his hockey stick. Stay awa. I wrested the hockey stick from him, then pointed it at the fleeing SVS people paired with a jerk of my head. That should be a clear sign to move along. He nodded and followed Reginus. A glint at the corner of my eye. A loud bang. I leaped to cover his back, getting hit with a strong blow around my midsection. Ignoring the pain, I threw the hockey stick, but end first, at the guy with a shotgun, skewering him. Calm down, Erend. Insatiable hunger welled up inside me. Saliva dripped from the corners of my mouth. My stomach was messed up, a bunch of holes all over my abs, but the pain was barely on my mind compared to the anticipation of food. The shotgun guy wasn't dead yet, just twitching on the ground with a hockey stick through his stomach. I could go over there and have a bite. No. Fight back the urge. Just focus on defending the SVS while they fled. A mechanical whir to my right. A towering man, the biggest of the bunch I'd seen so far, brought down a rotating saw blade machine upon me. This could be the same one that cut through the warehouse locks. I easily caught it, letting the blade bury an inch deep in my palm out of curiosity, before clamping it with my claws. So, this is how it feels like, I thought with a satisfied snarl. I then pulled it towards me. Thinking he could fight me with his laughable human strength, he didn't let go and got dragged down. I grabbed his head and ended his life with a little squeeze. My claws pierced through his skull and into his brains. Blood burst out of all the orifices on his head. There, I no longer hungered for him because he was dead. And I got a new meat shield against guns. A pretty big one. Shotgun man also died from his wounds. Or maybe the incoming horde trampled him. Either way, my cravings finally stopped. I held up my meat shield and readied myself for the next wave. I already killed so many of them. And they knew they couldn't do anything to me. I was getting more and more weirded out by the second. I always became uncomfortable when humans weren't behaving as expected, and that was a severe understatement in this situation. I knew people could radically change their behavior when joining like cults or something, but this was too extreme. Everything felt surreal. Could this be the work of an Adumbri? Stop. Everyone stop. I gazed up to my left. On top of a cargo freight container was Megaphone Man. How did he get up there so quickly? Stop. Stop attacking, he commanded on his megaphone. My eyes widened when the remainder of the mob halted in their tracks in unison like they were being controlled. If that wasn't weird enough, beside the kneeling Megaphone Man stood a little boy who was holding him by the collar, forcing him down. The boy carried a humongous axe over his shoulder, its double-bladed head wider than his shoulders, its shaft a couple of feet longer than his body. The axe glowed a sickly green, fitting for the Halloween theme of the night. One look and I could tell there was something seriously wrong with it. Isn't that one of the kids I saw earlier? I was right, there was some sketchy shit was going on with the PCM. The kid struggled a bit to raise the axe over his head but surprisingly managed to do so even if his tiny hands couldn't fully grasp the handle. This really looks like a gag show. Then he threw the axe at me. Of all the times I decided to start dieting, I mused as I watched the huge-ass axe hurtle through the air towards me, I end up in a situation where I should have eaten. I raised my human corpse shield. I doubted it would provide much protection and bent my knees, ready to jump out of the way. But I didn't move just yet. There was something wonky with the throw. It completely missed. By like a mile. Okay, by like a couple of yards. It landed halfway between me and the currently dormant mob. The axe just menacingly stood there. I suppose "stood" is a weird term to use for it, with one side of its head buried a few inches into the ground, its long shaft standing high. There's an immature joke here somewhere. It reminded me of the Excalibur, but an axe instead of a sword. Nice analogy, Erend, I thought sarcastically. Stupid kid with his stupid throw. Was it too heavy for him? Or? I squinted my eyes, holding my meat shield even higher, bracing for impact. 1 second, 2, 3, no explosion or anything. If it wasn't meant to hit me, I expected some sort of power, like an explosion or shockwave or whatnot, to come out. But nothing. So, that's it. Was this an axe giveaway? I gazed up to the little boy, wondering how he was going to retrieve his weapon now. He was gone. Only Megaphone Man remained on top of the freight container, lying unconscious while still holding his megaphone. The kid must have hit him before leaving. Where did the little brat go? I warily scanned my surroundings. Light only came from one dim lamppost, a squat office building 3 warehouses away, and the Halloween green axe. The mob was no longer using the lights of their cell phones or flashlights, they just stood as if in a trance, some slowly bleeding out to death. When in Blanchette form, I could see much more in the dark than my original body could, but I still wished I had the night vision thingy of my Pinot face. Total silence. I strained my ears for any signs of the boys' movement. No car horns or the distant sound of traffic. The wind was still. The people who were severely injured, a number were missing limbs or had huge wounds courtesy of yours truly, didn't make sounds at all, not even a groan or a moan of pain. Eerie as hell. These guys had to be controlled by an Adumbry to make them listen to the words of Megaphone Man. I didn't think he was an Adumbry, but that boy surely was. Or not. I hadn't heard of children becoming Adumbry, their brains weren't developed enough to understand the concept of agreeing with an Adumbry, whatever that meant. My father told me about it when I asked him what was going on after watching an Adumbry seeding outbreak on the news, but I couldn't remember much of the technical aspect of his explanation. What I did recall was that kids couldn't let Adumbry into our world, so he told me I shouldn't be scared. Not that I was scared back then, just mildly interested, like I was watching my favorite animal channel except with humans and Adumbry. I slowly backed away in the direction where Romello and the SVS gang had fled while keeping the axe in view. I intended to fight here for a bit to give them time to gain distance and hide before bailing myself. Now, where was that stupid kid going to attack from? Seconds ticked by with nothing happening. With the lull, I began to notice the smell of death, too melodramatic, the smell of blood rather. The bodies were freshly killed, so no rotting odor, only the raw earthy musk of scattered innards and the overpowering irony stench of blood, further amplified by my strong sense of smell. I wiped the blood off my snout. I just couldn't find the upside to enhanced smelling sense. Curiously, I somehow didn't find this nauseating. Maybe because this was my handiwork. Wait a minute. Did that brat just leave me and run after the SVS instead? Just left there all alone. I kind of wanted to take it. It should be easy to carry with my super strength, I was certainly stronger than that little kid. But wouldn't it be too cumbersome? What was I going to do with an axe anyway? I could do a lot with an axe. Ever-trusty videos on the internet could give me some ideas. And I didn't need to do anything with it really, it was enough I had an axe. If it was too heavy, I could return for it later after I chased. Who was I chasing again? Better get this axe now so I could already go my way chasing whoever it was I was supposed to chase. No one wanted the axe anyway, so might as well get it. It was fun to have an axe. Everyone had an axe, it'd be weird if I didn't have an axe. My head hurts, both from the intrusive thoughts and my own punch. I better get out of here so I could think more clearly. Hey! A voice inside my head. Hey there, can you hear me? Come take me, take the axe, don't leave me. No, thank you, Mr. Axe. There it was, the secret of this stupid axe and why the kid just plopped it here. It felt like wading through muck just trying to leave it behind. I wanted to look at it to check what was happening, but Saint Errand was fighting back to protest that it was a bad idea. I want the axe. Huh? Who said that? One of the PCM idiots. That axe is mine. No, it's mine, you bastard. Go away. Arg. Piece oh shit, ass. In my peripheral vision, I saw the crowd had moved again, fighting one another for the control of the axe. It seemed like I wasn't the only one who heard its voice. Suddenly, the oppressive force that was enticing me to join the scramble for the axe vanished. I panted, realizing that I was holding my breath for several seconds. I got it. Well, what's happening? Oh my God. There are so many dead people. Is that Jeremy? Call the police. Call the help. I'm hurt. Feeling that the threat of whatever mind control bullshit had passed, I let my curiosity get the better of me and turned to the Axe and the PCM members. They were all in disarray, running this way and that, seemingly having just awoken from being controlled, and seeing for the first time the carnage that was around them or happened to them. Those injured called for help, crawling on the floor, hugging their severed limbs. A guy was trying to hold together his slashed stomach, still in shock that his intestines were hanging outside his body. The one beside him was shaking with his limbs twisted like pretzels. Many were freaking out from being covered in blood and guts. Several had fainted. A couple had the presence of mind to call for help on their phones. Others were actually pretty level-headed and tried to do whatever they could for the injured. I raised my brow at someone who was trying CPR on a headless corpse. Okay, maybe that guy wasn't as level-headed as the others. Note to self, don't kill normal humans if I can help it. The aftermath was unavoidable drama, and I didn't like drama except if I caused it for emotional manipulation purposes. I mean, I did cause this, but not for manipulating anyone. I found this as awkward as waiting for everyone to stop singing "Happy Birthday" to me. Amid the chaos stood a woman. The woman who won the Axe. Let's call her Axe Lady. I was having fun with naming everyone tonight. Surprising that she was the one who emerged victorious given she was only a couple of inches taller than my height as errand and just as petite. She sported a bloody broken nose and a puffy cut lip. Patches of her long hair were ripped off her scalp. Her clothes were torn, wounds all over her body, the price she paid to get possession of the Axe. And now that she had it, her eyes glowed the same creepy green as the Axe. Some of the people around her, previously fellow competitors in the Axe contest, noticed something was wrong with her and crawled away as fast as they could despite their injuries. Axe Lady looked at me. Our eyes met. I grabbed the broken saw machine near me and flung it at her with all my might. A whistle. The wind kicked up dust. The saw machine broke into 4 pieces. Bye, I thought as I sprinted off. I leaped up the side of the nearest warehouse when I heard the whistle of her swing. I climbed up as fast as I could and then looked down. She hadn't moved from her spot, but she did raise her axe. That gave me a jolt. I thought she moved so fast she was already right behind me. Searing pain in my left calf. A red line appeared, blood seeped out. The wound widened as if it was a mouth breaking into a huge smile, and in a second there was a huge gash that nearly reached my bone. Another whistle. I immediately rolled left, avoiding a gust of wind sweeping up the part of the roof where I was a split second earlier. There was no trace of any damage until one of the huge fan ventilator thingies further up simply exploded. Like a scissor smoothly gliding through a piece of paper, a cut opened up on the roof where the gust of wind hit. More whistles. I rolled right and dropped down the hole into the warehouse. As I fell, I watched the rest of the roof get stripped away as if a powerful tornado was passing by. I extracted myself from the crates and lost myself in the maze of cabinets and containers. With my hands stretched in front of me, I tried to find a hiding spot, barely making out where I was going. This would be utter darkness for a normal human. A crash followed by several loud noises. Footsteps. Steel dragged across the floor. She's here. I dropped down and crawled, keeping myself as low as I could. I went inside this warehouse rather than continue running outside because Axe Lady could just easily hit me with this wind blade whatever power she had. My fight with Mr. Ogre back at Eve taught me running didn't automatically mean being able to evade everything like in the movies. I got hit with bullets back then, I certainly didn't want to get hit by the power of this axe now. I already knew it could easily dice me. Calm down, you idiot, I scolded myself. There was no way I could get near enough for a bite without getting sliced into pieces. I beat back the urge to snap my jaws and savor the power of my muscles. I had to be as quiet as possible. Focus so I wouldn't bump into shit and give away my location. Fwoom. Crash. As expected, she let loose gusts of wind in a random direction hoping to hit me. Thwoom. Thwoom. That one was a bit too close for comfort. It was just the next aisle over. I crawled faster. From her footsteps, I could tell where she was going. And I went the other way, specifically towards the hole she made to enter the warehouse. I could tell where it was because of the sound of the wind and the smell of open air. Wow, I was getting good at using my senses. Good thing Axe Lady didn't have the same abilities, or she would have already found me by following the scent of blood and canned sardines. She went deeper into the warehouse, destroying more stuff, while I was already by the exit. Hopefully, she'd waste time trying to search the warehouse so I could safely run away. I also bought time for Romello and the SVS. Lots of whistling, almost like a choir of flutes, accompanied by destruction. Good luck there, Axe Lady. Adios. I hopped outside and bolted. I was off to find the little boy. Knives. Baseball bats. Should I pick up some weapons? I passed through the dead bodies of PCM members. How about guns? Nah, I couldn't shoot with my huge claws. And I didn't want to waste time looking for guns in this field of corpses. There was something snake-like up ahead that glinted from the meager light of the lamppost. Oh, the chain. I hurried over to it and coiled it over my shoulder. It was sleek with blood, but I didn't mind it. Throwing shit at Axe Lady would be fruitless unless I caught her off guard, but this chain could probably entangle the axe so I could pull it away from her. But it was too late. Other people were screaming as well. They ran away from me. I followed them. Axe Lady was going to be out here soon. The whistle. Down or to the side. I dove for the ground and pressed my body down as flat as I could. A gust passing overhead confirmed I made the right choice. Too bad for the other people, huh? No one was chopped up. The wind dissipated. Could it be? From my position on the ground, I ran on all fours. A wind blade raked my left side, shaving a chunk off my shoulder. I roared in pain just as I caught up to the nearest PCM guy who was limping away. I grabbed him, turned around, and presented the pleading guy in front of me. I defiantly faced the Axe Lady. She didn't swing down her axe. I was right. She was intentionally avoiding hitting these people. I also noticed it earlier when she swung her axe and didn't hit a single person even though many were near her. Not sure why she was doing this. Whoa, was she the good guy? So, that made me the bad guy. Oh well, whatever it took to survive. She smirked and charged at me.